Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San today. My channel isn't monetized, so if you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 21 through 40.
Wang Yanfeng gazed deeply at him, then said to Gui, who was beside him, "You go rest first and keep an eye on the gate tonight. Should be fine, but still be careful." "Alright, I and Oppos. LL go check the front. You guys should rest early too. I think you should leave tomorrow." Even though Tang San wore a mask today, his physique is still quite noticeable, Gui whispered. Wang Yanfeng nodded. "I know." After Gui left, Wang Yanfeng and Oppos' gaze returned to Tang San and he asked solemnly, "Why did you join the collision competition today?" "This ISN and Oppos, T like you. Although you and Oppos, Re the youngest of the bunch, you and Oppos, V always been the most composed. Why did you become so impulsive today? Do you realize how dangerous this was?" Tang San lowered his head, looking like a child who knew he had done something wrong. "Speak up." Wang Yanfeng was beside himself with anger. Watching Tang San compete today, he had been truly on edge. Especially when he saw Tang San kill the flash leopard and then that fifth-order flash leopard pounced at him. Wang Yanfeng had really thought it was over. But who knew Tang San would win 3 consecutive matches? The rhino demon with strong defensive powers, as well as the swift and perceptive white-crested falcon, had both fallen at his hands. Wang Yanfeng questioned himself. Even if he had participated in the contest, he might not have done better than Tang San. Tang San murmured, "Teacher, that milk tea was just... I wanted to earn some money." "Milk tea?" Wang Yanfeng paused for a moment, looking at the boy with his head bowed before him. Suddenly he felt tightness in his chest. Milk tea? Just for that 1 cup of milk tea? An indescribable sadness welled up in his heart. Only then did he realize that the one in front of him, whom he had unconsciously come to consider his peer in the past year, was still just a 9-year-old child. Not only that, but he was a slave, nothing more than a number among livestock. Born a slave, raised a slave, never having experienced the warmth of a family. That cup of milk tea might have brought him a taste he had never experienced. Our human children are willing to risk their lives just to earn money for a cup of milk tea. Yes, the milk tea was sweet and fragrant, Tang San said, still with his head lowered. Wang Yanfeng took a deep breath, stepped forward suddenly, and pulled Tang San into his embrace, holding him tightly. Tang San bowed his head and in his mind, he saw the face and smile of Mei Gongzi today. The cup of milk tea was still beside his bed, and he cherished it simply because she had touched it. Never do something so foolish again. If you want milk tea, just tell me and I and Oppos. I'll take you to buy some. Wang Yanfeng choked out. His tone was no longer harsh but filled with warmth. Tang San and Oppos' heart trembled for a moment, and in an instant, the image of his father from his previous life appeared in his mind. Compared to this life, his last life was happier. At least in his childhood, he had his father and Oppos' company. In his previous life, his father had been one of the strongest of his era, and he had been a strong pillar of support for him, especially in times of danger. From Wang Yanfeng, he felt the same care that his father in his previous life had shown him. "I and Oppos, am sorry, teacher. I won an Oppos. Be impulsive again. I and Oppos, V worried you." Tang San sincerely admitted his mistake. Indeed, had he not been so deeply moved by his encounter with Mei Gongzi, he would never have rashly joined the competition. But the moment he saw her, he simply couldn't and Oppos control the impulse in his heart. Today was the happiest day since he had come to this world, having found the reincarnated form of his lover from his past life. And at this moment he also felt the fatherly love that Wang Yanfeng brought. He had anticipated a scolding from both Wang Yanfeng and Gui upon his return, but unexpectedly all he received was warmth. Wang Yanfeng patted his head. "Forget everything that happened today. You are very talented and you will surely succeed in the future. Rest early. I and Oppos, I'll check on your auntie Gui. If nothing happens tonight, everything should be fine." "Okay," Tang San replied. Wang Yanfeng gently patted his shoulder before getting up to leave. After he left, Tang San noticed that the other horn coin he had given his teacher was on the corner of his bed. The teacher is indeed a good person. Tang San and Appo's heart felt warm. After putting out the light, Tang San sat cross-legged on the bed, calming his mind first. Then he gradually entered a meditative state, feeling the energy of the mysterious heaven technique coursing through him. Today and Appo's battles had yielded incredible gains for him. He had planned to fight a few battles and withdraw at the right time, and he had executed that plan perfectly. In the first battle against the Flash Leopard, he had killed his opponent. He had then quickly devoured its fourth-order bloodline power to enhance his Leopard Flash ability. The role of the Leopard Flash was significant for Tang San. The instant acceleration was exactly what he needed in order to gain more adaptability and variability in combat. The power of the fourth order was far more different from the third than the third was from the second. Just like the control, power, and versatility of his wind blades had reached a completely new level when he had enhanced the bloodline imprint up to the fourth order. His acceleration and agility had instantly exploded once the Leopard Flash skill was elevated to the fourth order. In the following 3 battles he had also absorbed some bloodline power from the Rhino Demon, Falcon Demon, and Etherhorn Deer Demon, forming bloodline imprints within himself. Since he had only absorbed a small amount, the bloodline imprints formed were roughly equivalent to the third order. Why devour 3 more? Actually, that was his exact target number when he entered the competition. A key reason was, of course, to increase the number of his skills, but more importantly, Tang San wanted to test how many imprints he could absorb through the mysterious heaven technique. He speculated that he was able to absorb 1 imprint and gain a demonic god transformation skill for every order of the mysterious heaven technique. But this was nothing more than a guess, and it had to be verified through practice. Since he already had the Wind Blade and Leopard Flash, devouring 3 more bloodlines would result in 5 total imprints. If he could imprint all 3 within his mysterious heaven technique, it would mean that his previous judgment was wrong, in which case he could just keep absorbing skills. If only 2 could be imprinted, that would confirm his speculation, which meant that he could improve his understanding of the cultivation system in this dimension. Either way, the result held great importance for his future cultivation. Yet the outcome was completely unexpected. At this moment, the power of the 3 bloodlines he devoured had not been transformed into imprints. Instead, the energy had split into 3 differently colored orbs of light, silently floating within him. Tang San could vaguely sense that he could imprint all 3 skills and turn them into his own, but he also felt his existing skills, Wind Blade and Leopard Flash, were being affected, and they were becoming more active. Tang San couldn't and Appo's help but wonder why the introduction of 3 new abilities made his 2 existing skills feel somewhat detached. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation since he began cultivating. The feeling of detachment from the 2 original imprints didn't and Appo's make him nervous. On the contrary, he felt excited at this moment. To him, neither the Wind Blade nor the Leopard Flash were powerful abilities. They were decent, but they had very limited room for improvement. Thus, the most worrisome possibility in this situation was that only the skills that had already been imprinted could continue to improve. It would also mean that the total number of skills Tang San could learn was limited. Until his cultivation broke through to the god level, the Wind Blade and Leopard Flash would be the only skills that could continue to grow with him. This was undoubtedly the worst-case scenario, but it wasn't like Tang San had any choice in the matter. When he first arrived in this world, understanding its system was paramount. The fact that he was able to absorb the Wind Blade and Leopard Flash had actually opened the door to this world for him, leading to his current situation. Thus, Tang San was prepared. If his skills were limited in number, he and Appo's have to tolerate the continual presence of Wind Blade and Leopard Flash, finding ways to enhance and better adapt them for himself. At this very moment, as the 3 new imprints were absorbed, for some unknown reason, the 2 deeply ingrained skills in his bloodline suddenly felt distant, as if they could detach from his bloodline at any moment. This discovery filled Tang San with joy, suggesting that the energy from the mysterious heaven technique, combined with various powers of this world, could undergo more transformations. Although unclear about the nature of these changes, they undoubtedly opened up more possibilities. Rather than hastily activating the latest 3 imprints, he silently sensed their differences and relationship with his body. The imprints of the Wind Blade and Leopard Flash were undoubtedly larger and brighter among the 5. The Leopard Flash was newly upgraded and it still couldn't and Appo's T compared to the wind blade, but it had clearly improved significantly. The other 3 abilities hadn't, and oppose. T reached the 4th order. Amid the battle, Tang San had been unable to absorb too much of the bloodline power of his opponents, lest his devouring ability be exposed. Thus, the Ironhide Shield of the Rhino Demon, Falcon Eye of the White-Crested Falcon Demon, and Discerning Heart and Apos, Gaze of the Etherhorn Deer Demon were all around the 3rd order. The 2 4th order imprints appeared more vivid because they had already merged with Tang San and Apos' bloodline. The other 3 were still outside the system in a sense, though they were kept under control by the energy of the mysterious heaven technique. After observing silently, Tang San could feel that all 5 imprints were relatively stable. Even the 3 that hadn't and Apos, T merged into his bloodline were contained within a specific range, showing no signs of leaving his body or dissipating. This was quite interesting. As the mysterious heaven technique in Apos' energy circulated, the energy in his dantian turned into a vortex, with the 2 skills already imprinted in his body rotating with it as if they were a part of it. The 3 new skill imprints floated above the vortex, drawn by it but not integrated. It wasn't an Apos' T that they could not merge, but that Tang San was not controlling his energy to draw them in. The observation was not in vain, as Tang San gradually sensed something marvelous. Although these 3 new skill imprints weren't an Apos' T merged into his body, their existence was nourished by the energy of the mysterious heaven technique. In other words, floating outside the vortex in his dantian, they could silently absorb some of its energy to sustain themselves. With a thought, Tang San used his mental power to sever the connection between himself and the Ironhide Shield imprint. Instantly, the Ironhide Shield imprint trembled slightly and began to fade at a visible rate. Tang San immediately redirected energy into it, and the imprint became clear again. He quickly concluded that these demonic god transformation bloodline imprints provided skills and required the nourishment of energy from the mysterious heaven technique. The utilization of the imprints was, in fact, a form of conversion for this energy. These skill imprints would disappear if he severed their connection to the mysterious heaven technique. As long as he maintained the energy nourishment, they would persist. Could he then switch between merged and unmerged skills at will? Thinking this, Tang San began experimenting, using his mental power to guide the leopard flash imprint to detach from his bloodline. As he moved the leopard flash, Tang San immediately felt his energy become restless, and the stable vortex within began to churn. His mental power was incredibly steady, so he didn't and Apos' T rushed to extract the imprint. Instead, he carefully and gradually pulled it out while observing the changes. Quickly, he noticed something. The leopard flash imprint was being slowly pulled out, and during the process the imprint in Apos' glow diminished, and the recently enhanced power seemed to decrease. Tang San didn't and Apos' T stop, understanding the relationship between the mysterious heaven technique and these skill imprints was far more important than preserving the power of the leopard flash. He could always devour the bloodline of another flash leopard, but without clarity on bloodline integration with his mysterious heaven technique, he couldn't and Apos' T further advance himself. Finally, leopard flash was separated. The moment it completely detached, its power dropped from the recently attained 4th order to the 3rd. Still, the leopard flash imprint and the other 3 new ones now floated silently, rotating above the mysterious heaven technique vortex. Oh, it's possible. They could be separated and other skills could be swapped. Tang San was elated. This meant he wouldn't and Apos' T hinder his growth by wrongly merging a particular skill. However, his previous idea of switching skills at any time was dashed. If each separation decreased the skill imprint in Apos' power, such separations needed caution. His current 3rd or 4th order imprints didn't in Apos' T matter much, but advancing a level at higher orders would not be easy, and losing that progress due to separation would be painful. The wind blade couldn't in Apos' T be separated, as it was tied to his wind wolf transformation and the identity he had gained thanks to it. That was why the leopard flash was the subject of the experiment. Observing the 4 skills floating above the energy vortex in his dantian, Tang San continued experimenting. The next step would be integrating all these 4 imprints into his body. First was the return of the leopard flash. Perhaps because it had already been merged before, the leopard flash and Apos' reintegration into the mysterious heaven technique was smooth, and it almost instantly returned to the vortex. However, it remained at the third order. The previously dissipated imprint level had not been restored. Next came the Ironhide Shield. The integration of the Ironhide Shield imprint was significantly slower than the Leopard Flash. In addition, during the merger, Tang San discovered his bloodline was affected as he merged with the technique. The power of his bloodline became more robust, and it appeared his physical strength was also enhancing. Does this mean that the imprints not only offer me the skills themselves but also some characteristics of the original bloodlines they belong to? He hadn't and Oppos. T felt this distinctly when merging with the Windblade and Leopard Flash imprints. Perhaps it was because the bloodline of this Rhino demon was of a higher order? Next was the Falcon Demon's Falcon Eye imprint. As the Falcon Eye integrated, Tang San distinctly felt a refreshing coolness in his eyes, similar to the benefits he reaped when merging with the Rhino Demon and Oppos' Ironhide Shield. If that and Oppos' the case, then it means the more potent the original bloodline of the skill I merge with, the greater the benefit to my overall abilities after merging. That and Oppos' excellent. If integrating bloodline imprint strengthens my body directly, could I end up having the power of a bear, the speed of a leopard, the stamina of a horse, and more? If I can enhance my physical abilities, that's amazing. While contemplating, Tang San began integrating the final bloodline imprint. This was the most important part of the process, as it was the fifth, and the number of bloodline imprints would surpass his cultivation order. Success meant he had an Oppos. T reached his limit in the number of abilities he could infuse, which was obviously a good thing. Of course, even if he failed, it wasn't that bad. His previous experiment had shown that he could remove and replace the bloodline imprints, so he could always swap less useful abilities for better ones. With noticeable improvements to his body from the Ironhide Shield and the Falcon Eye, Tang San began to hope his judgment was wrong, as he really wished to integrate the Etherhorn Deer's Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze. This ability enhanced perception, a rare ability and even more precious than those directly boosting combat power. Sadly, as expected of a man with his experience, his guess had been right on the mark. The energy vortex swelled noticeably as he tried integrating the Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze into it. The four internal imprints shimmered, and as the light representing Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze began to merge, a strong repulsion force was generated, threatening to push it out. Indeed, it seemed that things were as he had guessed. Each cultivation order would allow him to integrate only one additional ability, not an infinite number. Tang San wasn't an Oppos. T2 disappointed. Certainty was most important to him, which was why he had tried to absorb 3 other abilities. With his judgment confirmed, he could choose his future cultivation and enhancement path. It and Oppos. Okay if it doesn't and Oppos T work. Slow and steady wins the race. Nourishing the Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze imprint did, however, use up some of the mysterious heaven technique's power, slowing his progress. He would have to decide later which to keep and which to replace. As he was about to give up on integrating the Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze, Tang San suddenly felt a tremor among the 4 imprints within his energy vortex. Immediately after, a strong attraction force emanated from one of the imprints. The Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze imprint, which had been moving away, suddenly paused, then was swiftly drawn in by the imprint emitting an attraction force and slowly began to merge into it. Tang San instantly tensed up, not with anxiety but with nervous excitement. He didn't and Oppos' T interfere with the change, and he just brought his mind to its most focused state, silently observing the interaction between the 2 imprints. The imprint that generated the suction was the newly settled white-crested falcon and Oppos' Falcon Eye ability. It looked as if it intended to pull back the Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze and absorb it. However, this absorption was clearly difficult. The Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze struggled intensely as if it didn't and Oppos' T want to be devoured by the Falcon Eye. But the Falcon Eye and Oppos' resolve to devour it was tenacious, and Tang San immediately felt a significant drain on the energy of the mysterious heaven technique. This Falcon Eye ability is interesting. It and Oppos' absorbing my mysterious heaven technique power to devour the Discerning Heart and Oppos' Gaze. It seemed that, hierarchically, the other horned deer's bloodline ranked above the white-crested falcons, so the latter and Apos' imprint needed the energy of the mysterious heaven technique to assist. The crucial question is, can they merge? No merging had occurred with the more powerful wind blade, nor did leopard flash and ironhide shield show any change, only the falcon eye. Falcon eye versus heart in Apos' gaze. Could it be that bloodline imprints could devour each other if they had something in common? Was this a mutation or a hybridization? Tang San couldn't and Apos' help but have some peculiar thoughts, but he didn't and Apos' attempt to interfere with this merging and devouring. He simply observed silently, allowing the falcon eye to absorb as much mysterious heaven technique power as it needed. Tang San silently activated his mysterious heaven technique, restoring his expended energy. Notably, the falcon eye and Apos' consumption was quite substantial. With Tang San and Apos' fourth-order mysterious heaven technique, a third of his power was depleted instantly. But he also noticed that a third of the discerning heart in Apos' gaze imprint had been pulled into the falcon eye imprint. The falcon eye imprint itself had become noticeably brighter. Its order didn't and Apos' seemed to increase, but it was definitely brighter. The original color of the discerning heart and Apos' gaze was a greenish blue, while the falcon eye was a white bloodline imprint. Now that they were fusing, the falcon eye imprint was turning light green, deepening in color. It was actually somewhat similar to the wind blade imprint but even brighter. Interesting, this is truly interesting. As the devouring sped up with the strengthening of the falcon eye imprint, when Tang San and Apos' mysterious heaven technique power was nearly two-thirds depleted, the discerning heart and Apos' gaze imprint finally vanished completely, merging thoroughly with the falcon eye, transforming into an emerald green imprint. On its surface, a faint white flow appeared. This was clearly not just a simple devouring. The falcon eye had not only enhanced itself but also clearly inherited some of the discerning heart and Apos' gaze and Apos' functions. Otherwise, the imprint and Apos' color would have remained white instead of undergoing such a change. While Tang San silently restored his energy, he pondered over the evening and Apos' immense gains. He had learned enormously. The most crucial part was understanding the upper limit of his ability imprints and their potential for evolving by devouring other imprints. In particular, the latter made him quite excited. Tang San found this world entirely new and unfamiliar. Yet, once he grasped some of its threads, he could slowly sense its true essence and use the abilities provided by the dimension itself to get stronger. For that reason, rather than recovering his former abilities and progressing in his cultivation of the mysterious heaven technique, it seemed far more of a priority to clarify the effects the mysterious heaven technique had on bloodline imprints and how he could make use of them. With this discovery, the direction for future enhancement became clear. To his joy, the already imprinted abilities were not immutable. They could be stripped away, sacrificing the order of the bloodline imprint, and they could also merge with other similar abilities. He was the sole practitioner of the mysterious heaven technique, which made him unique. In his current weak state, he was an Apos' actively targeted by the powers of this plane. Whether that would change in the future was a consideration for when he reached the god level. For now, Tang San and Apos' strength had greatly increased. Instead of 2 abilities, now he had 4, with one being a fusion of 2 bloodline imprints. The night passed without incident. The small and safely welcomed dawn. No flash leopard or wind wolf demons came, which meant that everything that had happened the day before had stayed there. As for what had happened after the collision contest, the 3 occupants of the inn could not care less. Early in the morning, just as dawn broke, Tang San awoke from his meditation. It was his daily cultivation routine. Pushing open the window, he gazed intently at the pale light of dawn on the horizon. The auspicious purple chi brought by the sunrise each morning was the perfect opportunity for him to cultivate his purple demon eyes. A faint purple hue emerged in his eyes, and suddenly Tang San and Apos' pupils constricted. To his surprise, his vision seemed magnified, as if the horizon had been drawn closer to that moment. A hint of purple emerged on the distant horizon, signifying the arrival of the auspicious purple chi. Tang San felt a heat in his eyes as his magnified vision seemed to connect with the purple chi instantly. An unusual amount of purple chi flowed into his eyes, making them feel almost scorchingly hot. He quickly closed his eyes, focusing all his mental power to control the large amount of purple qi being drawn in. It was a peculiar change, and it made his entire being feel warm. While experiencing the transformation of his purple demon eyes, he was pondering about what had happened. This was clearly the result of merging the falcon eye and the discerning heart and Apos' gaze. The integration of these two bloodline imprints seemed to have significantly enhanced his eyesight. What if I use this ability to cultivate my purple demon eyes? No, that wouldn't Apos do. Regular cultivation had already brought in several times the usual amount of purple qi in an instant. This allowed him to make rapid progress in his cultivation, which was obviously a good thing. However, deliberately using the skill to draw in purple qi could bring in an excessive amount, risking his eyesight. Having lived 3 lifetimes, Tang San was not rash. After some thought, he made his decision. The benefits of absorbing bloodline imprints were more significant than he had imagined. Not only would they provide him with specific abilities, but they could also strengthen his body and enhance his own natural abilities comprehensively. Right now, he could feel his strength increasing. This was due to the iron-hide shield of the Rhino Demon. This world, which had seemed to despise him until now, was finally revealing some of its magical aspects to him. After absorbing the purple qi, Tang San felt a slight improvement in his purple demon eyes, equivalent to about 5 or 6 days of regular cultivation. The sun had already risen, and the sunlight, which would have been harsh to most people, seemed gentle to Tang San. The auspicious purple qi passed, and thus ended that one moment he had each day for cultivating his eyesight. Since he couldn't Apos use his newly acquired ability to cultivate his purple demon eyes, what would it be like to use them normally? Thinking this, Tang San concentrated, closed his eyes, and activated the emerald green bloodline imprint. With the touch of the green light, Tang San felt a portion of his energy, almost 1/10, being consumed instantly. In the next instant, every single bit of the world in his perception became clearer. The chirping of insects and birds sounded as if they were right beside him. Though his eyes were closed, everything around him seemed to become 3-dimensional. There seemed to be something in the space around him resonating with his perception. Subconsciously, he sensed the 2 Etherhorn coins on the table. The subtle aura changes from the coins seemed to merge with his perception. Just then, Tang San slowly opened his eyes. Instantly, 2 palm-length beams of purple light shot out from the depths of his eyes. And in that instant, when the purple light shone, Tang San felt a revolutionary change in his vision. He saw a world of colors. The sky was still the same blue sky as before. However, within this sky floated innumerable motes of light of different colors. Those green dots were the power of the wind element. Red was fire, blue was water, orange was light, and white. That seemed to be the pure spiritual power of heaven and earth. Under his gaze, the world seemed to unravel, everything breaking down into its most fundamental elements. With the thought, the wind came. The wind element energy in his sight swiftly converged towards him. Almost instinctively, Tang San extended his hand, and the wind element naturally gathered in his palm, forming a slowly swirling vortex. He could see the elements now, and not only using his eyes, he could actually sense all of them. Combining the powers of discerning heart and Apos' gaze and falcon eye, this discerning eye was genuinely extraordinary. It enhanced his purple demon eyes, unleashing greater power when fused. In that instant, Tang San realized that among the 4 abilities he possessed, the most important one was an Apos' the wind blade that he used for long-range attacks, the leopard flash for speed, or the iron-hide shield for defense. Without a single doubt, it was the discerning eye, the new combination between the falcon eye and the discerning heart and Apos' gaze. The discerning eye lasted for 30 seconds. When its effect faded, Tang San felt a stinging in his eyes, and tears involuntarily started flowing. Such a marvelous ability! The discerning eye was a power he needed to enhance further. Its utility was immense even now, and in the future as he advanced further, its impact would undoubtedly be even more significant. Just then someone knocked on the door. As Tang San turned, he saw Wang Yanfeng pushing the door open. Wang Yanfeng, seeing him, couldn't and Apos' help but be startled. "Why are you crying?" Nothing. I was just dazzled by the sunlight." Tang San quickly wiped away his tears. Wang Yanfeng scrutinized him, feeling as if Tang San had undergone some change, as if something about him was different, especially his gaze, which, despite the tear streaks on his cheeks, seemed somehow deeper. We need to get ready to leave. Your Aunt Gui just went out to gather information. After yesterday in Appo's collision competition, the Flash Leopard clan and the Wind Wolf clan broke into a fight. It was only quelled when a large number of Kali guards arrived. Both clans are searching for that little Wind Wolf vassal. We must leave Kali City as soon as possible. Even though you were masked, your stature is too conspicuous. Tang San nodded. His actions yesterday had really been somewhat impulsive. Although they had brought him great benefits, they could also bring significant trouble. Leaving quickly was the best choice. But at that moment, something crossed his mind, and he instinctively looked out the window in a particular direction. He wanted to see her one last time before leaving, but now it seemed impossible. Wait for me, Mei Gongzi. I will return as soon as possible. Kali City Central District. Mei Gongzi had just finished adding ingredients to dozens of cups of milk tea, ready to brew it. Suddenly, her steps paused, her elegant brow furrowing slightly. What in Appo's wrong, Xiaomei? Su Qin looked at her daughter with concern in her eyes. Mei Gongzi gently shook her head. Nothing, Mom. Just suddenly felt a bit of palpitation for some reason. Su Qin approached her and gently stroked her long hair. If you and Appo's not feeling well, rest. I can handle things. I and Appo's am fine, really fine. Mei Gongzi quickly shook her head, giving her mother a sweet smile before returning to her bustling tasks. The shop was constantly bustling with demons coming to buy milk tea, and it was selling hundreds of cups daily. After covering costs, the profits were quite substantial. In the evening, a girl working in the shop took over Mei Gongzi and Appo's tasks. Sister Mei, you go rest. Leave the rest to me. Mei Gongzi turned and gave her a sweet smile. Xiao Shui, thanks for the help. Xiao Shui winked at her and subtly motioned with her chin towards the back. Mei Gongzi seemed to catch on to something, and she nodded slightly. As she turned around, her entire presence underwent a curious transformation. Tang San and Wang Yanfeng and Appo's departure from the city was smooth, with Gui driving a cargo carriage to escort them out. Gui allowed them to get off the carriage only when they were far away from the gates of Kali City. Her gaze towards Tang San held complex feelings. This child in Appo's talent far surpassed an ordinary vassal and Appo's. But was this truly a good thing for Wang Yanfeng? For that matter, was it a good thing for any of the vassals? Tang San, Gui called out. Gui sighed softly and said, You are the most talented and outstanding human I have ever seen. But you must know that the demons and nymphs dominate this world. Their strength is just immense, far beyond what we can contend with. Those humans who manage to become vassals and survive have already faced countless dangers. Only by staying alive can there be a chance. Although we cannot see the future now, if you want to do something for humanity in the future, then you must preserve your valuable life. Understood? Tang San nodded. I understand. Gui looked deeply into his eyes and said, I hope you truly understand. Brother, this is also for you. You must protect him well and keep a close eye on him. We cannot allow what happened yesterday to happen again. Luck may not always be on our side. Wang Yanfeng silently nodded but said nothing. Don and Appo's come back to Kali City for a while. Wait until you and Appo's grown up a bit, at least taller, before returning, Gui said to Tang San. Tang San glanced in the direction of Kali City. Do I really need to stay away? There were ties there that were too important, too significant for him to stay away for long. After bidding farewell to Gui, Wang Yanfeng and Tang San set off on their journey. On the road, Wang Yanfeng didn't and Appo's say much, nor did he impart advice to Tang San as Gui had done earlier. Not until they turned from the main road onto the path leading back to Wind Wolf Town. Teacher. Tang San turned his head to look at Wang Yanfeng, who had suddenly spoken. Wang Yanfeng said, I always thought you were still young, that you needed time to grow and mature both your heart and mind. But this time I and Appo's realized you and Appo's not so young anymore. You are more composed than I had imagined. So, why did you act so recklessly this time? Teacher, I want to grow faster, to become stronger. I hope that we humans don't have to live for much longer. Wang Yanfeng nodded, saying that and Appo's what many enlightened humans wish for. But Gue is right, we are still too weak in this world. The strength of the demons and nymphs is beyond your imagination. Tang San shook his head. No, you and Appo's wrong. I can imagine their strength. But does a strong opponent mean we just back down? If we do nothing, humans will forever remain slaves. In terms of wisdom, we surpass the demons and nymphs. So why should they enslave our people? Why should we be their food? Because the heavens do not favor us. We have wisdom, but we lack natural talent. Tang San argued, no, it and Appo's. It's not that we lack talent, but that we haven and Appo's. T found a way to align our talents with the laws of this world. Wang Yanfeng was startled, he hadn't and Appo's. T expected Tang San to say something like that. He had heard similar words once before. Tang San spoke earnestly, teacher, I don't and Appo's. T believe that I alone can change all of humanity. What can truly change humanity is finding a way that aligns us with this world and makes us gradually stronger. It might not be achievable in one generation, but as long as we try, there must be a way. When he first arrived in this world, even as a former god king, he had felt fear and helplessness. But as he understood this world more, he began to feel its distinctiveness. Just as he said, the humans of this world hadn't and Appo's, T yet found a way to align with it. Like in his previous life on the Douluo continent. When he was born, the soul beasts of that world were still very powerful, and humans struggled to match them. But humans found a way to awaken their own martial souls, becoming stronger and evolving into soul masters. Eventually, they began to encroach on the living space of the soul beasts, becoming the masters of the Douluo continent. So, ISN and Appo's. T this demon continent in front of us like an early Douluo continent? Perhaps in 1,000 or 10,000 years, humans will also have found a way to become strong, defeating the demons and nymphs. The same task was much more challenging on the Phelan planet. After all, the demons and nymphs on this demon continent were on a much higher level than the soul beasts of the Douluo continent. But it was not hopeless. Perhaps, in the grand scheme of things, his reincarnation is meant to bring hope to its humans. Wang Yanfeng suddenly smiled. I meant to persuade you, but now I feel like you and Appo's re-persuading me. I also hope to see you find a way that better aligns with this world. But before that, you must remain as inconspicuous as possible. And Don and Appo's. T mention our conversation today to anyone else. Understood. Tang San nodded. Back in Windwolf Town, everything was as usual. Tang San went home first, while Wang Yanfeng went to report to the Windwolf Lord. Upon entering the courtyard, Tang San's hair was blasted by the howling wind. Raising his hand to shield his face, he saw the three Wang brothers sparring. The three seemed to be in a melee, not using wind blades but relying on the enhanced physique of their wind wolf transformation. They were running around the courtyard, seeking opportunities to pounce on their opponents and start a grappling match. Ling Muxue watched from the side with great interest, and green light was dancing in her hands as she practiced controlling the wind element. Seeing Tang San enter, her eyes lit up and she quickly ran over. Tang San, you and Appo's back. Tang San smiled slightly and nodded at her. They sure are enthusiastic. They sure are. Before teacher took you away, he told us to do more practical training. The more we fight, the more we can stimulate our abilities and get used to them, Ling Muxue said with a smile. Tang San nodded in agreement. Then he suddenly clapped his hands, drawing the attention of the three Wang brothers. They immediately stopped chasing each other and looked in his direction. Tang San gently shook his head. Your progress is too slow. At these words, Wang Chao, Wang Zhong, and Wang Xiaolei all paused, surprised. Tang San, the youngest of their group, was usually considered too young by Wang Yanfeng to participate in practical training. He was quiet and rarely conversed with the others, focusing solely on his silent cultivation. They had only seen Tang San use the wind blade during their first practical training session. At that time, the three Wang brothers had zero knowledge of. After a year under Wang Yanfeng and Appo's guidance, they now had some understanding of the outside world. Wang Xiaolei snorted, how is our progress slow? Have you seen my agility? As he spoke, still in his wind wolf transformation state, he suddenly pounced toward Tang San, his right hand moving like a swift wolf claw. Ling Muxue was startled and raised her hand to release a wind blade. but Tang San stopped her with his hand. In the next instant he dashed forward. Now it was Wang Xiaolei and Appo's turn to be surprised. He had only intended to scare Tang San and hadn't and Appo's planned to actually strike him. Seeing Tang San suddenly charge at his claw, he hurriedly tried to pull back. Then he saw a blur before his eyes as Tang San dodged his wolf claw and closed in on him. Wang Xiaolei was tall and thin, and although he was younger, he had almost reached Wang Chao's height. Tang San raised his right hand, hooked his arm around Wang Xiaolei and Appo's neck and spun around, dragging him over. Wang Xiaolei felt the force of his forward pounce suddenly redirected, and he was flung sideways. With a thud, he landed on the ground in his wind wolf transformation state. Wang Xiaolei had impressive physical abilities. Even though he had been slammed hard onto his back, he quickly bounced up and angrily accused that and Appo's cheating. "You ambushed me." Tang San simply shrugged. "If this was a real fight, I would have cut your throat." Wang Chao and Wang Zhong exchanged glances. Wang Chao couldn't and Appo's help but ask Tang San what and Appo's gotten into you today? Tang San looked at them and said, "Nothing. I just think that you should grow faster. All three of you come at me together. I and Appo's LL spar with you." Wang Chao exclaimed in shock, "Are you crazy? You?" Before he could finish, Tang San and Appo's hands were already swirling with green light, and two wind blades shot toward him and Wang Zhong. Although Wang Zhong had been silent, his attention was entirely focused. Seeing the wind blades, he immediately reacted, his explosive power making his body spring up as he swiftly dodged the wind blades and charged straight at Tang San. The wind blade he had dodged exploded, and under the impact of the blast, Wang Zhong and Appo's forward charge was abruptly thrown off course. On the other side, the second wind blade also exploded. Wang Chao had intended to counter Tang San and Appo's attack with his own wind blade, but his attack missed, and the shockwave of the explosion forced him to step back. "Get him!" Wang Xiaolei growled, already charging at Tang San again. Tang San turned his head toward him, shifted his stance and faced Wang Xiaolei head-on. When Wang Yanfeng returned home after completing his tasks, he was immediately met with the sight of the three Wang brothers lying on the ground, gasping for air. Wang Xiaolei and Appo's eyes were even rolling back slightly. Tang San was talking to Ling Muxue, who seemed deep in thought. "What happened here?" "Get up," Wang Yanfeng frowned and chided. "Teacher, you and Appo's back." Wang Xiaolei suddenly sat up, and his voice was tinged with a whining tone. Tang San beat us." "Teacher, are you biased? Why is he so strong?" "It hurt." Wang Yanfeng was taken aback and turned to look at Tang San. Tang San said they need to speed up their growth. "Otherwise I and Appo's am worried they won and Appo's become capable vassals." Wang Yanfeng was speechless, having just told him on the way back to keep a low profile. Tang San had his plans. Naturally, if he hadn't and Appo's encountered Mei Gongzi, he would have kept a low profile and methodically improved himself. Staying as hidden as possible was the best approach. But for him, nothing was more important than getting to Mei Gongzi and Appo's side as quickly as possible. Thus, he also had to consider how to go to Cali City, which in turn meant that he had to figure out how to leave this place. Not just by himself, but with all the vassals here. Without a doubt, Cali City was much safer, and what Wang Yanfeng had brought him was not just knowledge. However, relocating everyone to Cali City required a lot of work. Strength was the foundation, but the right opportunity and a valid reason were also needed. Now, filled with determination, he had to start preparing, and the best way to start was by helping the three Wang brothers and Ling Muxue improve faster. The three Wang brothers now looked at Tang San as if he was a monster. They could never have imagined that the youngest had such formidable combat strength. Wang Yanfeng glanced at Tang San, then at the other three, thought for a moment and said, "In that case, starting tomorrow, Tang San will also join the practical training sessions." "Ah!" the three Wang brothers exclaimed in unison. "Tang San, come with me." Wang Yanfeng called Tang San and led him to the second floor. There he looked him in the eyes. What in Appo's going on? This trip to Cali City had made him see Tang San in a new light, not just because of his combat abilities but also because of his meticulous thinking. The entire process, from participating to leaving, had been flawlessly executed on the day of the collision contest. It had seemed perilous, but from disguising to feigning defeat and retreating, he hadn't opposed given the Flash Leopard clan any chance to pursue. These were not the actions of a mere child. Mature far beyond his years indeed. I want to help them grow quickly, Tang San stated plainly. Wang Yanfeng frowned slightly. What are you planning to do? Tang San replied, naturally, I want to help them all successfully obtain their vassal certifications. Teacher, could you help me find some information about Windwolf Town? The population, their ages, their strengths, and so on. The more detailed, the better. I want to help everyone analyze their opponents. Wang Yanfeng was surprised. Analyze opponents? Tang San nodded earnestly. Is it just about analyzing opponents? Wang Yanfeng felt it wasn't that simple. Tang San said, know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. The vassal qualification exam in 2 years is a matter of life and death. Every bit of extra effort can mean a world of difference. Alright, I and Appos. LL try to find it for you. Be careful to keep your strength a secret. Try to go out less frequently, understand? Wang Yanfeng cautioned. Tang San went back to his room to rest, and after sitting in thought for a while, Wang Yanfeng finally stood up and left. In Windwolf Town, Wang Yanfeng and Appos' primary job was to manage the human vassals and work for the Windwolf Lord. So, he generally had little to do, but he could communicate directly with the Windwolf Lord. His position was actually somewhat awkward. As a vassal leader and a fourth-order cultivator, he was stronger than most werewolves. However, given the low status of vassals, even ordinary werewolves would be haughty and arrogant towards him. Tang San returned to his room, where he saw that Wang Zhong had already come back. Seeing Tang San return, Wang Zhong immediately jumped off the bed and looked at him with burning eyes. Why are you so strong? Tang San replied, talent and hard work. Wang Zhong was about to say something more, but then he heard Tang San say, do you want to learn the footwork I used in our fight today? Wang Zhong was momentarily stunned, and he instantly recalled Tang San and Appos' ghost-like figure. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't even touch him, and they could only endure the blows that he rained upon them. Absolutely, exclaimed Wang Zhong without hesitation. Alright, I and Appos, I'll teach you. From that day on, during the practical combat class, Wang Yanfeng had Tang San join in, and after Tang San and Appos' inclusion, Wang Yanfeng himself stepped back. Tang San and Appos' guidance differed for the Wang brothers and Ling Muxue. With Wang Zhong and Appos' slender frame and resilient nature, Tang San taught him the ghost shadow perplexing track. Wang Chao, the strongest, learned controlling crane catching dragon. Finally, Wang Xiaolei was taught the mysterious jade hands technique. Under regular cultivation, these 3 ultimate skills brought from his past life required the support of the mysterious heaven technique. However, Tang San couldn't and Appos' have them cultivate that right now. He had actually secretly guided Ling Muxue to try it. Unfortunately, her cultivation had been immediately affected by the power of her Windwolf bloodline, making it impossible to cultivate and even risking bloodline chaos. This was likely related to the nature of the mysterious heaven technique. In any case, he didn't and Appos' know if humans without the awakened Windwolf transformation could cultivate it, but he couldn't and Appos' test it now. Therefore, he had to adapt the 3 ultimate skills into a simplified form, according to the characteristics of their Windwolf transformation, and allow it to utilize the power of the bloodline rather than the energy cultivated, using the mysterious heaven technique. Ling Muxue also learned the ghost shadow perplexing track. Among the 4, she had the best talent and progressed the fastest, but her physical strength was not on par with the Wang brothers. At the same time, their Windwolf bloodline power could only go so far. After all, the wolf demons that had given them their bloodline hadn't been very strong, which meant that the bloodline they inherited had natural limitations. Despite this, under Tang San and Appos' guidance, all 4 made rapid and substantial progress in their abilities. Day as night fell, Tang San silently slipped through the window, ascending to the rooftop of the 2-story building. As he sat down cross-legged on the rooftop, his eyes shimmered with a faint light. It was a soft golden halo, not the purple demon eyes but the discerning eye. Instantly, the world before him transformed, becoming fantastical and strange, as elements of various attributes and colors became vividly clear in his vision. Recently, as he cultivated the discerning eye, he felt his spiritual power and purple demon eyes strengthen with his mastery of the technique. If only I could see all the way to Kali City, he thought wistfully. The image of Mei Gongzi surfaced in his mind, and Tang San and Appo's heart warmed instantly. His spiritual power fluctuated silently, guiding the green specks of elemental energy to envelop the building beneath him. Under the guidance of the discerning eye, he could feel the power to manipulate these elements. Immediately, the wind elemental energy within the building below became noticeably denser. With the help of the discerning eye, Tang San was actually enhancing the wind element and speeding up everyone's cultivation. A cluster of green light slowly gathered in the palm of his outstretched right hand, emitting a soft green glow. It was the wind elemental energy, slowly condensing. This external wind element resonated with the power of the wind wolf bloodline imprinted within him. Tang San and Appo's mind was filled with information about the wind element and Appo's transformations and characteristics. To truly elevate humanity, humans must possess their own power. The power of the demonic god transformation is, after all, borrowed from the demons, not truly human. Only by finding a way for humans to cultivate on their own can they truly stand their ground in this world, he mused. As Tang San and Appo's own strength grew, so did his understanding of the power system of this world. The spiritual energy of this world was incredibly abundant. In fact, it was the most dense Tang San had ever seen. Phelan Planet was still a normal planet, not on the level of the divine realms. However, the concentration of spiritual energy on this planet was almost on par with the celestial spirit energy of the divine realms. Particularly in large cities, the spiritual energy in Kali City was much denser than in Wind Wolf Town, likely due to the fact that the cities were using some method to condense it. However, this world and Appo's spiritual energy was not without its issues. For one, it was domineering. The force of this plane was extremely aggressive, restraining all outside powers. Tang San encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation of the mysterious heaven technique, precisely due to the suppression of this plane. Yet, the spiritual energy of this plane was very compatible with the demons. That was why various demon clans possessed spiritual intelligence and naturally strong talents and abilities. This meant that the ruler of this plane favored both the demons and the nymphs whom Tang San had yet to encounter. In contrast, humans and some other vassal races received no such compassion, which rendered them unable to cultivate by themselves. This led to the necessity of aligning oneself with the demons or nymphs to cultivate in this world. Hence, the emergence of the demonic god transformation. To break free from the plane and Appo's suppression, Tang San would need to return to the peak state of his previous life. But given the current circumstances, even breaking through to the god level in the future was a massive issue. Upon reaching that breakthrough, he would have nowhere to hide in this plane and would surely be discovered by the plane and Appo's ruler. Forget about advancing to higher levels. He would be lucky if he wasn't hunted down by every being on the planet. In other words, this plane was a double-edged sword for him. His cultivation speed was far higher than in his past life due to the rich spiritual energy. However, breaking through bottlenecks and regaining his God-King strength was an extreme challenge. Feeling the wind element within the building beneath him gradually overflow, Tang San silently descended, not returning to his room but stealthily slipping out of Wind Wolf Town. Entering the forest, Tang San took a deep breath and sped up instantly. He was enveloped in green light and the wind element energy boosted his speed, allowing him to move swiftly through the forest like a streak of green light. Thanks to the discerning eye, he was able to agilely dodge the large trees, maintaining high speed without slowing down. He ran wildly for half an hour before stopping, leaving a mark on the trunk of a nearby large tree. Only then did he return. He was testing his speed. It was a 3-day journey from Wind Wolf Town to Kali City. How long would it take if he sprinted at full speed? He couldn't and Appo's easily leave Wind Wolf Town as he didn't and Appo's even have the status of a vassal just yet. However, he continuously trained his speed, aiming to reach Wind Wolf Town faster in the future, even if just for a glimpse of her. The ability Tang San most desired to absorb from the demon races was actually flight. With it, a 3-day journey could be covered in half a day. If he left in the evening, he could arrive in Kali City by midnight. Unfortunately, during the collision competition, he had been unable to absorb a flying ability. The innate ability of the white-crested falcon was in fact the falcon eye, and flying was merely part of its natural physical capabilities. If Tang San could acquire the white-crested falcon demon and Appo's demonic god transformation, he could fly using that transformation. However, he cultivated the mysterious heaven technique, and he didn't even have the wind wolf bloodline, much less the bloodline of a white-crested falcon demon, so naturally it was impossible. On his way back, Tang San pondered over this issue. He had the abilities of more than one race now, but he didn't, and Appo's possessed the ability of demonic god transformation, and it would be a risk if he truly reached a large city in the future. What would he do if the demon races demanded him to transform while checking for vassals? Initially, he hadn't been particularly interested in demonic god transformation. As a human, what good would come from transforming into a demon? But the thought of flying, and the possibility of going to Kali City to see Mei Gongzi, made him view demonic god transformation differently. Returning to Wind Wolf Town and his residence, Tang San sat cross-legged on his bed to cultivate. His continuous absorption and sustained cultivation had recently brought the mysterious heaven technique to the pinnacle of the fourth order. And, as he expected, he encountered another bottleneck. Without a doubt, this time, he had to devour higher-level Wind Wolf bloodline power to advance to the fifth order. And when he reached the fifth order, he should be able to defend himself well enough around these parts. When he concentrated inward on the mysterious heaven technique, for skill imprints shone faintly within his energy vortex. The green glow representing the Wind Wolf transformation was the strongest, followed by the discerning eye. Both were at the fourth order. The leopard flash and the ironhide shield imprints, on the other hand, had been demoted to the third order after being stripped once, and they glowed dimmer. These ability imprints endowed him with the innate abilities of different demons. It was essentially the mysterious heaven technique infusing them with energy, allowing the imprints to unleash corresponding abilities. So, was it possible to use the same mechanism and mimic a demonic god transformation? Even a partial one would be excellent. Tang San had been pondering this issue recently and tried various things, like momentarily merging the imprints with his bloodline. However, upon merging, he encountered a problem. As soon as they integrated with his bloodline, the mysterious heaven technique's energy would quickly retract the abilities, or, rather, expel them from his bloodline. The abilities seemed to exist only separately in Kuden and Appo's truly merge with his bloodline. A hint of weariness surfaced in his mental world, and with a thought, Tang San realized that the discerning eye had remained half-open due to his contemplation on the way back. This half-open state was a mysterious condition where he didn't and Appo's observed the external world but instead enhanced his own perception of himself. This was a benefit of the original discerning heart and Appo's gaze. It made Tang San and Appo's mind clearer and his thoughts more lucid, and it was particularly useful when pondering. By not projecting the discerning eye outward, the energy consumption was much lower, which allowed him to sustain it for longer. Just as he was about to deactivate the discerning eye, suddenly Tang San sensed some commotion upstairs. Wang Yanfeng and his wife Qiu Jing live upstairs. After living together for so long, Tang San would normally not pay attention to the sounds of daily life, but just now for a moment he sensed that there were more than two people upstairs. He instantly became alert, glanced at Wang Zhong, who was meditating in the bed next to him, oblivious to everything, and stood up again to open the window. With his discerning eye fully activated, the world before him again became colorful. Tang San immediately sensed that the wind element in the air was much denser than usual, a clear sign that someone was manipulating large amounts of it. Judging by the agitation of the wind element, it was not for cultivation but for battle. Tang San went through the window and climbed up the wall without hesitation. In just a few moments he was outside the second-floor window. The window was open, and three people were silently confronting each other. Wang Yanfeng had already activated his wind wolf transformation, and so had Qiu Jing beside him. To Tang San and Appo's surprise, the usually gentle and caring teacher and Appo's wife had undergone a less noticeable wind wolf transformation and stood slightly behind Wang Yanfeng. She was also at the fourth order. Facing the couple was a man wearing a mask. This man was tall, dressed in black, and wore a somewhat peculiar mask on his face. adorned with a pattern resembling a tiger but with blue stripes. "Brother Wang, relax," said the man with the tiger mask, making a calming gesture with his hands. But the aura he exuded, even without using his demonic god transformation, was clearly more powerful than Wang Yanfeng and his wife and Appo's, indicating he was at least a fifth-order powerhouse. Tang Sen held his breath and focused, trying to conceal his aura. His ability to hide was still strong, even without using his bloodline imprint. "Who are you?" asked Wang Yanfeng on guard. The man in the tiger mask chuckled. "I exist to save humanity, born for the rise of mankind." Wang Yanfeng and Appo's pupils visibly shrank, and he blurted out, "Redemption Society?" Although Tang San outside the window had already guessed it, his heart still jolted when he heard these words from Wang Yanfeng and Appo's mouth. Has the Redemption Society finally come searching? When Wang Yanfeng had first started teaching them, Tang San had wondered whether Wang Yanfeng had any connection to the Redemption Society. After all, their Kuden and Appo's be all that many humans who have reached the fourth order or above. However, from what he could tell, it seemed that Wang Yanfeng knew about the Redemption Society but had not joined it. Hearing him utter the word redemption, the man in the tiger mask gently inclined his head. "Indeed, it and Appo's us. Actually, Gue is the one who told me where you live." Hearing the name Gue, Wang Yanfeng visibly flinched, but his tense muscles did not relax. Instead, he became even more vigilant. The man in the tiger mask spoke succinctly, "She is one of us. You must have guessed by now, no? Without our help, how could it be that easy to establish a foothold in Kali City?" Hearing these words, Wang Yanfeng took a deep breath, slowly retracting the claws on his palms. "What do you want from me?" Wang Yanfeng asked in a low voice. Beside him, Qiu Jing also looked puzzled. The man in the tiger mask lowered his voice. "We humans are struggling to survive on the demon continent. Most of our people can and Appo's even achieve enlightenment, and they live and die as slaves. What are your thoughts on this, Brother Wang?" Wang Yanfeng gave a bitter smile. "What can I think? The demon and nymph clans are so powerful. Can we possibly overthrow them?" The man in the tiger mask fell silent momentarily. "Do you know how the Redemption Society was originally formed?" Wang Yanfeng was taken aback, unsure why the other party suddenly changed the subject, and shook his head in confusion. The masked man and Appo's voice sounded even lower, "Because those of us who can undergo the demonic god transformation, we all have no mothers. The desire for revenge for our mothers brought us together. The wish of the Redemption Society at that time was that one day, our children could have mothers." As soon as these words were spoken, both Wang Yanfeng and Qiu Jing, as well as Tang San outside the window, felt their hearts quiver. Qiu Jing and Appo's eyes reddened. Indeed, among those humans who can undergo the demonic god transformation and become vassals to the demon and nymph clans, almost all have no mothers. Only if both parents are vassals is it possible for their children to have a mother. But the first generation of humans who can undergo transformation, how could they have such an opportunity? Their mothers were all violated by demons and nymphs, which led to their births. And their mothers would be brutally killed at the time of their awakening to the demonic god transformation. The man with the tiger mask continued, "I was lost when I first awakened. After gaining enlightenment, I wished that I could have given up the awakening to have my mother stay alive. Even if it meant living a muddled existence, at least I could be with her. And it was this thought that filled my heart with even more pain and hatred. Her image has already blurred. I can and Appo's even clearly remember her face. I can and Appo's even find her remains. Every one of us in Redemption Society is an avenger. Yes, you are right. The demon and nymph clans are so powerful. What can we do with our meager strength? Can we overthrow their rule? Seems completely unrealistic now. But if we can and Appo's overthrow them, does that mean we shouldn't resist? Do we just let them slaughter and kill our loved ones and our people? Do you know that among some of the larger demon clans, our women who secretly achieved enlightenment offer themselves to the demons? To conceive children who can inherit the demonic god transformation ability, even though they know that once their child awakens to the demonic god transformation, they will die, they do so without hesitation. There was a mother who told us to take her child to join the Redemption Society after her death, not for revenge, but to give humanity a bit more hope. Wang Yanfeng listened silently to his story, then deactivated his wind wolf transformation and said calmly, "Why tell me all this? I and Appos, V seen far worse than what you and Appos, V described." "So," the man with the tiger mask said after seeing so much, "have you become numb?" Wang Yanfeng replied indifferently, "What else can I do?" The man with the tiger mask spoke solemnly, "Join us. Save more humans with us." "Save more humans?" Wang Yanfeng scoffed in self-derision. "You know the situation with the demonic god transformation. What level can we achieve through training in it? Also, as bloodlines are passed down among humans, the strength of the demonic god transformation will diminish. What you can do is just assassinate some people at most. What else is there to do?" The man with the tiger mask said gravely, "When I first joined the Redemption Society, I thought the same way. I was just seeking revenge and I felt that was enough for me. But later I realized the Redemption Society is not just that. We are creating our own world. I cannot tell you all the details, but what I can tell you is that the society and Appos' goal has never been assassination or becoming a group of killers. It and Appos' about enabling humans to live better lives. Yes, our current abilities are limited, as is the number of people we can help. But we believe that as long as we keep trying, we will see the dawn." Wang Yanfeng shivered slightly, truly moved by the words about creating a world for humans. "Do you know the consequences of being discovered as a member of the Redemption Society?" Wang Yanfeng asked, frowning. The man with the tiger mask nodded, saying, "Of course I know. But in the past few decades, have you ever heard of any Redemption Society member being captured and implicating others?" Wang Yanfeng was taken aback. His knowledge about the Redemption Society was limited. "Gui Gui is one of ours. Over many years, the Redemption Society has developed its own strict rules. Every society member, from their identity to their tasks, has a careful arrangement to ensure their safety. Yes, we have an assassination team, but that and Appos' not all. We also have a well-organized intelligence task force. The bloodline and beliefs of humans bring us together. There are those who, after awakening to the demonic god transformation, choose to side with the enemy. But the vast majority still choose to be human because we are fundamentally still humans, and demons or nymphs can never truly accept us." Wang Yanfeng took a deep breath and asked, "If I join you, what do you need me to do?" The man with the tiger mask replied, "I and Appos am here for two main reasons. The first is to hope that you will join. You one and Appos need to do much. Just continue to manage our human vassals here, expand their numbers as much as possible, educate them to gain enlightenment, and instill some of our ideas in them. This shouldn't and Appos be difficult for you, considering that it's your job in the first place." Wang Yanfeng slightly relaxed and nodded. "And the second reason," the man with the tiger mask said, "Gui Gui mentioned that you have taught a very outstanding disciple. This child, despite his young age, already possesses fourth-order strength. The society has decided to focus on cultivating him, and I am here to take him with me." Wang Yanfeng and Appos' heart tightened. "Are you talking about Tang San?" He couldn't and Appos' help but silently blame his sister Gui Gui for not revealing anything to him before. He and Appos' still young, and he doesn't and Appos' even have the status of a vassal yet, Wang Yanfeng said. The man with the tiger mask waved his hand, saying, "You needn't Appos worry about that. The society will handle it. Moreover, whether the society can fully groom him depends on whether his talents are sufficient. Therefore I need to test him first." Wang Yanfeng asked gravely, "What if I don an Appos agree to join you?" The man with the tiger mask replied, "That and Appos okay too. Given your sibling relationship with Gui Gui, betraying us offers you no benefit. I believe you will still keep our secret. As for the child, if I confirm that he has enough potential, I will still bring him with me. How will you test me?" Just then a young voice rang out. In the next instant, a figure deftly landed in the room, closing the window behind him. It was Tang San. Seeing Tang San enter through the window, the man with the tiger mask instinctively raised his hand but stopped when he heard Tang San and Appos' words, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. Before Tang San entered, he hadn't and Appos detected his presence. This child, who appeared to be only 8 or 9 years old, was this good at concealing himself? And the fact that he could detect his arrival meant his perception was also very sharp. Tang San, come here. Wang Yanfeng immediately beckoned to him. Tang San walked over to Wang Yanfeng and Qiu Jing. The man with the tiger mask didn't oppose. T stop him but watched him keenly, sizing him up from head to toe. The test is simple. A real battle. If you can last 1 minute against me, you pass, said the man with the tiger mask. For some reason, when he looked into Tang San and Appo's eyes, clear yet restrained, he felt something unusual. He had a premonition that this child would bring him some very interesting surprises. Tang San said, I can join you, but I have conditions. Oh. The man with the tiger mask looked at him with interest. Tang San and Appo's tone didn't oppose. T sound like that of a child. What conditions? You haven't and oppose. T passed my test yet, but you seem very confident. Tang San didn't oppose. T respond to his skepticism. He simply stated, I want my training with you to be in Cali City, and I want a safe identity in the public eye. Listening to the conversation between the man with the tiger mask and Wang Yanfeng had deepened his understanding of the Redemption Society. This human organization was undoubtedly not strong enough on its own, and while their goals sounded noble, achieving it seemed extremely challenging. However, this organization would allow him to leave this place sooner. Otherwise, he would have to wait at least another year to attain his vassal status before leaving. Being able to go to Cali City earlier meant he could be by her side sooner. For Tang San, nothing was more important than this. The man with the tiger mask said, Your identity issue will naturally be solved. But why do you insist on going to Cali City? Tang San momentarily fell silent, seeming timid, then said, Because Aunt Gui is there. The tiger-faced man asked, Then why are you willing to join us? Tang San suddenly looked up, and without hesitation he said, For revenge. My mother. He paused, pursing his lips as a gleam of hatred flickered in his eyes. This wasn't oppose, all an act. He was only 9 years old, and he naturally had to display traits characteristic of a child his age to avoid suspicion. However, his desire for revenge and hatred were in fact genuine. The tiger-faced man looked at him and sighed softly, Child, I support your quest for revenge. But remember, do not let hatred blind you. Our Redemption Society has much grander goals. Tang San nodded silently, I understand. But this is my reason for joining the Redemption Society. If you agree to my terms, I will join you. The tiger-faced man nodded, All right, we and oppose. LL set aside your conditions for now. You must first pass my test. Once you and oppose V pass, then we can discuss your terms. Tang San naturally understood that he was being assessed for his potential. When he first entered Cali City and met Gui, he instantly suspected that she might have hidden intentions. And what he found later only served to reinforce these suspicions. During his time in Cali City, he had seen many vassals, but none of them actually owned the businesses they were working for. There were only 2 exceptions. One was Mei Gongzi and her mother at Mei Gongzi and Appo's milk tea shop, and the other was Gui with her inn. In his view, Mei Gongzi and Appo's milk tea shop posed the greatest concern. It was located in the very heart of Cali City. The fact that a shop could operate there without any demon disturbances proved without a doubt the uniqueness of this establishment. As for Gui, although her status was not extraordinary, the fact that she owned a small inn within Cali City that was frequented by human vassals clearly raised questions. At that time, Tang San had already considered that Gui might be connected to the Redemption Society, or backed by unseen forces. Since Gui was the sister of Wang Yanfeng, the likelihood of her having a major power behind her was slim, hence the stronger suspicion towards her hidden intentions. Therefore, when Tang San participated in the collision contest, he also wanted to test Gui and Appo's intentions, which was why he wanted to show her his capabilities. Now that a member of the Redemption Society sought him out, he was less surprised and more pleased. This was precisely what he had hoped to see. Resolving his own identity issues and managing an early visit to Cali City would not be easy if he relied solely on Wang Yanfeng and himself. It was not an easy feat, and it could easily lead to future troubles. On the other hand, while the Redemption Society was not very powerful, their continuous existence as the only human revolutionary organization suggested that they had some things to rely on. and it was precisely these resources that Tang San needed the most right now. Thus, his participation in the collision contest was not a momentary impulse but a well-thought-out move, and it had achieved multiple objectives in a single go. The tiger masked man had appeared sooner than Tang San had anticipated, so his goal was actually achieved faster. At the same time, Tang San grew increasingly aware that the Redemption Society was probably not a massive power by any standards. A powerful and secretive group would not have been so fast to approach him. Covert observation would have been better. But this also bode well for him in a way. Given their lack of human resources and his considerable abilities despite his young age, how could they not value him? A faint smile appeared on his face. He nodded and asked, "May I begin now?" The tiger-masked man narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Wang Yanfeng and his wife. Wang Yanfeng, holding his wife in Appo's hand, slowly backed away, clearing the modest space in the room. Just as the masked man was about to speak, a sudden sense of danger arose. With a flash of green light, a wind blade was already before him. The wind blade wasn't anything massive, but it was incredibly solid, so much so that the ordinarily pale green wind blade had turned into a pleasing yet sharp emerald color. The masked man raised his hand at lightning speed, reaching for the wind blade. And in that very instant something shocking happened. The wind blade suddenly halted in a split second, a mere few inches from his hand. It stopped so abruptly that it seemed to defy the laws of motion. The masked man and Appo's outstretched hand, now covered in patterned fur and visibly enlarged, grabbed at nothing. The next moment, the emerald wind blade accelerated again, reaching the masked man almost instantly. At this distance, the masked man had no way to avoid it. Grr! A deep growl erupted from the man's throat. The low growl, accompanied by a blast of air, forcefully shattered the wind blade in front of him. But the mask on the masked man and Appo's face also cracked apart with that roar. This initial exchange resulted in the man suffering a small loss. Watching from the side, Wang Yanfeng had seen clearly that Tang San had not released just one wind blade but two. The first blade hovered in the air, rotating at a high speed. Tang San had practiced this technique with Wang Yanfeng, but the latter admitted he couldn't, and Appo's manipulate it as effortlessly as Tang San, who could make the wind blade pause and hover precisely where he wanted. Then the second wind blade flew out, colliding with the hovering one, simultaneously triggering both and creating a burst of numerous smaller wind blades in a wide-range attack. Had it not been for the tiger-masked man and Appo's roar that blew away some of the wind blades, he would have suffered even more. With the mask shattered, the face revealed was that of a middle-aged man with a resolute appearance, visibly taken aback. The next instant he saw two more wind blades flying from Tang San and Appo's hands, tracing two beautiful arcs straight toward him. The man and Appo's eyes narrowed and a deep blue halo emanated from his body. Instantly, the temperature in the entire room seemed to drop by several degrees. The deep blue fur on his hands became denser, and his arms grew thicker. However, in this transformation, only his hands and arms seemed to change, while the rest of his body remained unaltered. The wind blades were silent, and as they approached him, they seemingly veered off course, whizzing past both sides. However, the vigilance of the tiger man never waned. He didn't, and Appo's need to see to sense that the two blades were turning behind him and flying toward his back. The hovering wind blades from before and the one shifting trajectory that the child had just used now were an eye-opening experience. When Gue reported about Tang San, he was somewhat skeptical. A mere 9-year-old child defeating several fourth-order demons in succession? It seemed pure fantasy. But now he was starting to believe. This level of skill alone was enough to astound him. If this was all Wang Yanfeng and Appo's teaching, then Wang Yanfeng was indeed extraordinary. Of course, Tang San himself was more important. Considering his age, it was clear that his potential was immense. As he was lost in thought, Tang San and Appo's hands continued to unleash a stream of silent wind blades. These green blades appeared as elusive as an antelope and Appo's horns, yet somehow the tiger man felt that they all posed a threat to him. Contrary to his expectation, the first two wind blades did not strike his back as anticipated but actually missed, passing just over a foot behind him. A moment before, an ice shield had already formed behind him, but it now served no defensive purpose. Tang San consecutively launched 12 wind blades, filling the room with swirling green light. Yet, none of these green lights damaged anything in the room. They all revolved around the Tiger Man. His eyes instantly turned deep blue, and mist swirled around his tiger paws. With the tip of his toe on the ground, a powerful aura burst forth, rapidly dropping the room and Appo's temperature even further. An armor-like layer of ice formed on his body. Disregarding the wind blades, he lunged straight at Tang San. This lunge was swift, a tiger and Appo's pounce. And as soon as he commenced his action, those wind blades flying in the air seemed to be triggered, converging toward the masked man like rivers flowing into the sea. The wind blades were still silent, but this silence posed the most significant threat. The Tiger Man, heedless of the danger, only fortified the ice armor on his body further. Just as he was about to reach Tang San moved. The Tiger Man only saw a blur before Tang San vanished from sight, as if he had been merely an illusion all along. As Tang San instantly dodged the Tiger Man's charge, the wind blades arrived. Wang Yanfeng and Qiu Jing, watching from the side, had their mouths agape in shock. They could hardly believe their eyes. The 12 wind blades flying haphazardly in the air had now converged into a neat row, systematically slashing toward the same spot on the masked man and Appo's back. The 100 birds homing strike. With Tang San and Appo's mental power, he couldn't and Appo's control an actual 100 wind blades yet, but managing just 12 was very much doable. The 100 birds homing strike technique was like 100 birds flying, converging as they entered the forest. Against a robust defense, focus the attack on a single point. Never mind that Tang San and Appo's wind blades were made of far more compressed energy than normal. Even ordinary ones would have been unbearable if 12 consecutive strikes struck the same spot. With a bang, the first wind blade exploded. As the man with the tiger face was about to turn around, the second wind blade had already arrived. 2 consecutive wind blades exploded, causing him to stagger. As the Tiger Man turned around, his vertical pupils instantly fixed on Tang San. Tang San stood precisely where he had been at the start. 5th order against 4th order. Yet the man had been unable to resist and had been defeated by the opponent and Appo's series of wind blades. More importantly, the Tiger Man remembered exactly how many wind blades had struck his back. He hit me with 9. But what if there were all 12 of them? Forget about 12 wind blades. He couldn't have taken even a 10th one. The 9th had already pierced through his defenses, and with his ice armor shattered, even his thick hide wouldn't have offered him much protection. Setting aside how this incredible technical level was achieved, the sheer power of each wind blade was not something an ordinary 4th order wind wolf could produce. At this moment, he deeply understood that Gue hadn't been exaggerating. No, if anything, she had severely underreported the abilities of this child. Tang San didn't and Appo's continued to attack. His hands naturally hung at his sides as he calmly looked at the Tiger Man. Is that enough? The Tiger Man took a deep breath and slowly nodded. Of course, he had many more methods at his disposal, and if he fought desperately, he was confident he could defeat Tang San. But that would exceed the purpose of the test. Of course, this belief was his own. Whether Tang San thought the same was another matter. Who taught you such a way to control wind blades? The Tiger Man asked solemnly. Tang San turned his head to look at Wang Yanfeng. Wang Yanfeng and Appo's heart twitched. I taught you? Exactly what did I teach you? But at this moment, he roughly understood Tang San and Appo's intention and nodded, saying, this child has exceptional comprehension. I gave him some pointers and he was able to gain insights and develop his own ideas from what I taught him. I believe that, right now, his control over wind blades is in fact even better than my own. The Tiger Man nodded silently, his regard for Wang Yanfeng rising a notch. To be able to mentor such an outstanding disciple as a teacher. Although Wang Yanfeng was not a very powerful cultivator, his teaching ability was commendable. Alright kid. Your 2 conditions Shuden and Appo's be a problem. I and Appo's take you to Cali City. I need to report on your situation and make arrangements for you. After saying this, the Tiger Man nodded to Wang Yanfeng, then suddenly sped up, dashed to the window, pushed it open and leaped out into the darkness. His arrival was abrupt, and his departure even more so. Wang Yanfeng had thought that the man would have more to say after Tang San agreed to join and passed the assessment, but unexpectedly, he had just left abruptly. Wang Yanfeng gave Tang San an inquiring look. He had mixed feelings about this boy. Not to mention anything else, the 100 birds homing strike technique he used to control the wind blades was astonishing. Could wind blades be used like that? How could he know that Tang San actually used wind blades? Because they were a convenient way to disguise his identity, thanks to the wind wolf transformation. Not to mention, with his current situation, using wind blades as his hidden weapons allowed him to maximize the effect of his myriad secret weapon techniques. The 100 birds homing strike was just the most basic of them. Even Tang San himself found it strange. In his previous life in the Douluo continent, he had relied more on mechanical-type hidden weapons during his initial rise. Sophisticated and powerful mechanical hidden weapons had allowed him to stand his ground before his strength was sufficient. In this world of the demon continent, however, the richness of the spiritual energy and the uniqueness of the demonic god transformation enabled him to put into practice more of the Tang sect and Appo's hidden weapon techniques. He was genuinely exhibiting the power of the hidden weapon 100 separation art. The Tiger Man left Wind Wolf Town and had just entered the forest when he stopped, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Only then did he catch his breath. Why had he been in such a hurry to leave? Because if he hadn't Appo's he would have vomited blood right there and then. That would have been too embarrassing. A 5th order, beaten to the point of spitting blood by a 4th order? And the opponent in Appo's bloodline was the meager wind wolf demon? He would be ashamed even to mention it when he got back home. But even at this moment, his heart was still filled with astonishment. He could hardly believe that a 9-year-old child could use wind blades, whether it was their power or the control he exerted over them. It was incredible. This was not just a matter of a good bloodline. The child had a rare gift. The wind wolf transformation seemed tailor-made for him. A plan had to be made quickly to have him join the society for training. Perhaps soon the organization would have another high-order powerhouse. For the Redemption Society, high-order cultivators were both essential and rare. The Tiger Man continued on his way. Inside the wooden house, Wang Yanfeng asked Qiu Jing to take her rest, then took Tang San to the quiet room where they usually practiced. Do you truly want to join the Redemption Society? For revenge? After a moment of silence, Tang San said, "Teacher, I want to see the outside world. I also want to become strong. I also seek revenge, yes," and the man from the Redemption Society said, "We need to give humanity hope." I think he and Appo's right. Wang Yanfeng sighed. Actually, Gue has been trying for a long time to get me to join the Redemption Society. I knew she was a member. I never agreed because I didn't and Appo's want to disrupt the peace we had finally achieved. I understand all he said earlier about the greater good. I always understood it, but I and Appo's am a coward. I never had the courage to act. I just want to live a good life with my wife. Tang San lowered his head. I and Appo's. I'm sorry, teacher, I and Appo's caused you trouble. Wang Yanfeng smiled and shook his head. Don and Appo's blame yourself. What and Appo's meant to come will come. You are mature, far more so than your brothers here. I believe your choice one and Appo's be wrong. You and your talent should join the Redemption Society. In my heart, I also look forward to humanity and Appo's rise. I will just stay here and do my part while you spread your wings and soar. I hope I can see a glimmer of hope for humanity in my lifetime, even if it and Appo's just a tiny spark. You certainly will. Tang San nodded firmly. The conversation between the teacher and the disciple ended there. Returning to his room, Tang San fell into deep thought. Things were almost exactly as he had anticipated, and everything fit nicely within his plan. The Redemption Society had come, and he had passed their assessment. As for how they would take him to Kali City, Tang San wasn't and Appo's too worried. If they couldn't and Appo's even manage this small matter, then there was no need for the Redemption Society to exist. What he needed to do next was to wait. Subconsciously, the image of that somewhat youthful yet stunning face reappeared in his mind, and his gaze softened instantly. In his plan there had been 2 scenarios. The first, the standard scenario, was considering that his judgment was wrong and the Redemption Society wouldn't approach him. In that case, he would proceed methodically with his cultivation and improvement. He would then devise a plan to travel to Kali City once he officially became a vassal. The biggest issue with this plan was that he could abandon everything here and even destroy the entire Wind Wolf town if it came to that. But what about the humans here? What about the vassals? Would they be implicated? This was a troubling thought. The second scenario was the Redemption Society coming for him. That would be the ideal situation. With the power of the Redemption Society, it would not be challenging to assist Tang San in entering Kali City, and they would handle any subsequent issues easily. Indeed, this was his biggest problem at this point. He could somehow manage by himself even though he lacked knowledge of the world, but unfortunately, he also lacked the influence to ensure the safety of others. Things were developing in a direction better than he had imagined. Now, it all depended on how the Redemption Society planned to redeem this little slave who had not yet been freed from servitude. For the next half-month, Tang San spent his days eating normally, cultivating, and thinking about Mei Gongzi. Of course, he also spent time practicing actual combat with the Wang brothers and Ling Muxue. Under his rigorous training, his companions improved rapidly, even faster than when Wang Yanfeng taught them. After all, Tang San was the youngest. To the Wang brothers, being beaten daily by the youngest member was quite embarrassing, especially in front of Ling Muxue. Being well-fed allowed their development to normalize. Wang Chao, being older, coped better with the tasks, while Wang Zhong and Wang Xiaolei were often distracted by Ling Muxue. It was bad for Wang Zhong and even worse for Wang Xiaolei due to their similar ages. In the meantime, Ling Muxue was becoming closer to Tang San. With this dynamic during practical lessons, the Wang brothers naturally tried even harder to defeat Tang San. Another evening fell. After Wang Zhong entered meditation, Tang San was about to go out for cultivation when he suddenly heard a noise. He immediately went through the window and climbed to the second floor. Wang Yanfeng was already waiting there, and the visitor was the same tiger man from the other day. He had put on a new mask. Without saying anything, Wang Yanfeng led both of them straight to the quiet room and shut the door behind them. The tiger man looked straight at Tang San. The higher-ups have approved your request. The preliminary plan has also been finalized. Wang Yanfeng asked nervously, "What are you planning to do?" Although Tang San is still technically just a random human child, he is almost a vassal. As his handler, I would be responsible if he suddenly disappears. Also, with the growth of the Redemption Society in recent years, the demon clans are now stricter than ever in their control over human vassals. The Tiger Man reassured him, "Brother Wang, Don and Oppos. T worry at one and Oppos. T implicate you. We plan to start some chaos and use it as a distraction." In such a situation, the disappearance or even death of a small slave Wuden and Oppos, T attract much attention. We and Oppos, LL use this opportunity to take Tang San away. How will you create this distraction? Asked Wang Yanfeng. Remember the fourth order flash leopard that Tang San killed in the collision contest? Well, as you know, the Flash Leopard clan and the Wind Wolf clan are mortal enemies. Since then, there have been several clashes between them in Kali City, and they only stopped when the city lord intervened. We and Oppos, LL find a way to guide the Flash Leopard clan to attack this place. Using this opportunity, we and Oppos, LL take Tang San away. As long as you protect yourselves, there should be no problem. Hearing this plan, Tang San and Oppos' eyes lit up. It indeed sounded like a good plan. An attack by the Flash Leopard clan on the Wind Wolf clan and Oppos' villages was nothing unusual for such sworn enemies. Minor conflicts had been frequent over the years. However, the nearest village of the Flash Leopard clan was hundreds of miles away, so disputes in this particular place Waren and Oppos' frequent. A Flash Leopard attack on the Wind Wolves naturally had nothing to do with the human vassals. No matter what happened afterward, the blame could not be placed on Wang Yanfeng and the human vassals. The Redemption Society had some tricks up its sleeve. Wang Yanfeng, having thought of this as well, said, "The scale of the conflict Shuden and Oppos' be too big. Otherwise, I and Oppos am afraid it might harm our people. We will keep it under control. One of our elders will personally oversee this operation. If anything goes off track, the elder will intervene directly," the Tiger Man said gravely. Wang Yanfeng nodded and then turned to Tang San. Tang San nodded, saying, "I have no further questions." "Good," the Tiger Man said. I and Appos, LL share the detailed plan now. Brother Wang, aside from you and Tang San, Don and Appos, T tell anyone about this, including your wife. It and Appos, S important for your safety later. I hope you understand what I mean. Yes, I understand, replied Wang Yanfeng. The tiger man then took out a roll of leather and unwrapped it to reveal a map. It was a map of Wind Wolf Town and its surrounding terrain. He looked at Tang San and asked, "Can you read this map?" Tang San looked down, then pointed somewhere close to the center and asked, "Is this our town?" "Correct. Over here is Wind Wolf Town, and here is the road leading to Kali City. Over here is the residence of the 5th Order Lord of Wind Wolf Town, and over there lives the 6th Order High Priest. Once the Flash Leopards attack, they will surely take action. All attention will be drawn there. Our initial plan is to guide the Flash Leopards to attack from this direction. The area near the residence of the High Priest will be the main conflict zone. Brother Wang, on that day, be sure to gather all vassals and stay indoors to avoid accidental injury. Once the battle starts, an alarm will sound. Tang San, when you hear the alarm, start counting in your head. Start from 1 and count at this speed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 300. Then leave the house and run toward the back of the town. To coordinate with your departure, we will assist the Flash Leopards in invading Wind Wolf Town to create chaos. Brother Wang, remember not to act rashly at that time. Protect the other vassals well. If a Flash Leopard approaches, feel free to engage. If you encounter vassals of the Flash Leopards, however, please Don and Appos, T kill them. Some are also members of our society. Tang San, make sure to memorize the locations on the map clearly. We will meet at this spot. I will be waiting for you there. Then we will leave here and head toward Kali City. Brother Wang, after the fight, you should just go and tell everyone that a Flash Leopard abducted Tang San. You can even go and complain to the Wind Wolf Lord. With that, our plan will be complete." The Tiger Man then repeated the entire plan 3 times, emphasizing every location and every time point with Tang San and Wang Yanfeng. He made them repeat it to ensure they had memorized it correctly. The plan is as follows. We are scheduled to proceed in 3 days. I will return in 2 days to confirm the final time with you. Tang San, remember not to bring anything with you when the time comes. Just slip away quietly. The timing must be precise because we need to put some distance between you and the Flash Leopards, or we'll be in deep trouble. If you're late and you stumble upon the Flash Leopards, it'll be really difficult to get away from them and all this planning would be for nothing. Do you understand what I mean? Tang San nodded. I understand. The Tiger Man said with satisfaction, good, that and Appos. That's all for today. I and Appos, LL come back in 2 days. After the man left, Wang Yanfeng looked at Tang San with a complicated gaze. I didn't and Appos. T expect it to come so soon. Tang San remained silent. In his view, the redemption organization had taken half a month to prepare to take away a small slave like himself. Considering the magnitude of their objective, they had taken quite a long time. Fortunately, the arrangements were meticulous. Seeing him silent, Wang Yanfeng stepped forward, put his arm around Tang San and Appos' shoulder and hugged him tightly. Go, you should go there. With your talent, you can and should do more for humanity. If you find danger you can't deal with, find a way to come back. Even without a legitimate identity, I am your teacher and I can protect you here. This will always be your home. Teacher, I will come back, Tang San said earnestly. Wang Yanfeng smiled slightly and said, if the place is as good as you expect, take the others with you later. Okay. Tang San knew exactly what Wang Yanfeng wanted. Wang Yanfeng took a deep breath. Perhaps I should do something as well. Let this be the beginning. As long as they can successfully take you away, I will formally agree to join Redemption and be their informant here. Teacher. Tang San felt a warmth in his heart. In his mind, Wang Yanfeng had never been a coward. He was just doing what he could to protect his people, which was far more admirable than those who recklessly rushed out to their deaths. Without Wang Yanfeng and Appos' protection, it would have been impossible for so many human vassals to live in Wind Wolf Town. 2 days later, the man with the tiger mask returned. He confirmed the final time for the action, keeping to the original plan. After sending off the man again, Tang San returned to his room. He knew the first significant move he would make since his arrival in this world was about to come. Quietly sitting cross-legged on the bed, Tang San slightly squinted his eyes. which flickered with contemplation. The plan described by the Tiger Man surfaced in his mind. 300 breaths. I should be able to do a lot during that time. In the forest, agile figures swiftly moved through, each with a slender and robust build, leaping freely among the trees. The thick branches served only as leverage points, offering no hindrance to their progress. They were all covered in fur with yellow-brown spots, and they could cover tens of meters with each leap. Quickly, they crossed the forest and entered the main road. Nearly 100 figures rapidly converged. Leading them was a figure that stood upright, over 3 meters tall, with a slender physique exuding strength and bright yellow light flickering in its eyes. Its clawed hands slowly retracted as it stood, revealing itself as a mighty flash leopard. Behind him, numerous figures gathered, clearly centered around him. The leading flash leopard pointed ahead. Is it this direction? A figure much smaller in stature quickly approached him and nodded slightly. Lord Shanling, it is this way. It's called Wind Wolf Town. A flash of ferocity gleamed in Shanling and Appo's eyes, with a hint of red flickering in his yellow pupils. Wind Wolf. Damn it. Follow me. With those words, he suddenly waved his hand and leaped ahead. The other flash leopards, each with a fierce look in their eyes, quickly followed by his side. The flash leopard who had spoken to Shanling earlier slightly retracted its fur, revealing a human-like face. But soon it transformed into its flash leopard form, blending into the group of flash leopards. Although the flash leopard clan was and Appo's particularly powerful among the demons, the sight of hundreds of flash leopards moving together on the main road still held a formidable and ferocious momentum. Even the demons of stronger clans would give way to them when encountered alone. Something was unusual about the aura of these flash leopards. Flash leopards were incredibly fast, excelling in short sprints and anything that required explosive power. Their running pace was much faster than average demons, even when they were not at full speed. The lineage of flash leopard demons had always been known as the kings of speed. When they stopped again, it was sunset. Shanling slowed down and halted under a large tree. He raised his right front paw, and the flash leopards behind him paused, gathering around him. Rest here and wait for the night. This time we must succeed. Failure is not an option. Shanling and Appo's voice was filled with a chilling tone. The numerous flash leopards dispersed, each finding a place to rest. The continuous sprint had drained much of their bloodline power. Resting now would allow them to recover to their best condition. Zhang Mingqi, come here. Shanling called out sharply. A flash leopard quickly approached. Its fur quietly disappeared and its body became thinner, and it soon transformed into a human. It was, in fact, a human vassal. He respectfully bowed before the flash leopard. Shanling, my lord. Show me the map. Shanling waved his hand. Zhang Mingqi quickly took out a leather map and spread it before Shanling, pointing at the images on it. He then glanced at the slowly setting sun. Sir, look, we should be here right now. We are less than 10 kilometers away from Wind Wolf Town. It will take about 10 minutes to get there from here. Once the team has rested, we can go anytime. Shanling looked at the map and said, Are you sure it and Appo's here? You know the consequences if you lead us the wrong way. Zhang Mingqi replied with an earnest and fearful expression, I and Appo's am sure, my lord. I saw them coming this way and entering the town. Do you think we should negotiate first? To see if they are the ones who abducted our clansmen? A fierce light flickered in Shanling and Appo's eyes. Negotiate? What in Appo's there to negotiate? Do you think those cunning wind wolves will tell me the truth? Once we go there, we and Appo's will search. I Don and Appo's believe a small town can do anything about it. Once I find evidence, I and Appo's will destroy their town. A domineering aura emanated from Shanling, and a faint golden sheen flashed in his yellow eyes. Zhang Mingqi quickly lowered his head, respectfully saying, Yes, my lord. I will follow your instructions. Satisfied, Shanling nodded and said, You go and rest too. If we succeed this time, you will be credited for it. Yes, my lord, replied Zhang Mingqi. He found a corner nearby, sat down against a large tree, and adjusted himself. His right hand silently pressed against the tree and his fingers moved subtly, leaving several marks on the tree. The sky gradually darkened and night fell. Shanling let out a deep roar. The resting flash leopards quickly rose and gathered around him. Zheng Mingqi, you lead the way, Shan Ling commanded coldly. Yes, my lord. Zheng Mingqi swiftly completed his flash leopard transformation. Although he was still somewhat different from an actual flash leopard, it wasn't Appo's. Too easy to tell the difference in the dim light of the night unless one looked closely. Holding the map, he confirmed the direction and quickly moved ahead. The Flash Leopard clan was not particularly inclined to use their brains. Although all demons had intelligence, the levels of wisdom varied. Some demons were exceptionally clever, but most demons pursued strength over intelligence. For instance, reading a map was troublesome for the Flash Leopards. In these aspects, the performance of human vassals was satisfactory to them. The intelligence of humans was why most clans had some human vassals to handle intellectually complex tasks. Zheng Mingqi naturally wooed an Appos. T mistake the direction. 10 kilometers was short for Flash Leopards, even at a slow jog. Soon they saw the small town in the distance, with smoke rising from the houses. Unbeknownst to them, Zheng Mingqi had cleverly led them to avoid the village inhabited by human slaves to prevent the Flash Leopards from venting their anger on them. For demons, slaves and livestock were no different, capturing each other and Appos. Slaves was a common practice, especially between hostile factions. A fierce light flickered in Shan Ling and Appos' eyes when it looked at the nearby town. It raised its paw and patted Zheng Mingqi and Appos' shoulder, clearly satisfied with his guidance. Sir, it should be here, Zheng Mingqi said respectfully. Shan Ling nodded and raised his right front paw, and the flash leopards behind him immediately spread to both sides and stopped there. Shan Ling slowly closed his eyes, and at that moment, the yellow spots on his body began to emit a faint yellow halo. It was almost as if the spots were coming to life, gently pulsating with the flow of the halo. It was a bizarre feeling. Including Zheng Mingqi, all the flash leopards present felt something stirring within their bloodlines, making them noticeably agitated and heated. After dinner, Tang San was called upstairs by Wang Yanfeng. Today was the day of their appointed meeting with the Tiger Masked Man. Just then Tang San felt a sudden stir in his heart. The imprint of the flash leopard within him burned intensely, making his blood feel like he was boiling. He quickly used the mysterious heaven technique to suppress the restlessness of the imprint. Although he did not know what was happening, he could guess that the flash leopards had arrived. Somewhere outside the town, the yellow glow on Shan Ling and Appos' body gradually receded, and when he reopened his eyes, they were filled with a fierce crimson light. Right here. I can sense the presence of my clan. They are still so weak, but they are here. Damn it, right here. Charge with me, search the entire town, and show no mercy to anyone obstructing us. Shan Ling roared and in a flash charged toward Windwolf Town. The flash leopards behind him also let out deep roars, following in his wake, charging towards Windwolf Town with lightning speed. The defenses of Windwolf Town had always been lax. After all, the surrounding area was a vast forest, and the nearest flash leopard clan was hundreds of miles away, so there was usually no need for a guard. However, when Shan Ling and Appos' roar sounded, the high priest of Windwolf Town, who was about to have dinner at her residence, sensed something, and her murky gaze suddenly became focused and intense. She abruptly raised her hand, unleashing a fierce wind that blew away the human vassals serving her. At the same time, her slender staff flew out from a room and landed directly in her grasp. The staff rose high and a beam of green light shot into the sky, accompanied by an ancient wolf howl emanating from its mouth. Surrounded by the swirling green light, the high priest descended slowly. Shan Ling had already charged to the front of Windwolf Town, which had no walls or barriers. He charged straight in at breakneck speed, guided by the bloodline scent he had sensed moments ago. He immediately encountered a third-order wind wolf. The wind wolf, seeing a figure pouncing towards it, instinctively opened its maw to roar in anger. But before it could get a clear look at the assailant, sudden pain in its throat silenced it, and its muscular body slowly collapsed. At that moment, Shan Ling saw the green light shooting into the sky. He shouted and leaped into the air, his body radiating intense yellow light, and the fur on his body burst into the same yellow halo that had appeared before. The flash leopards that had followed him into Windwolf Town instantly felt their bloodlines boil, and their aura significantly strengthened. This was a characteristic of the various demon clans. When a strong leader led their kind into battle, Their bloodline enhanced those of their lineage, enabling them to exhibit greater combat power. Xianling immediately spotted the high priest of Wind Wolf Town rising into the air in the distance. He leaped across the town and Appo's rooftops, heading straight for the high priest. Capturing the leader first was a commonsensical tactic even for hard-headed beings like demons. This old wind wolf, who was sending out warnings from the center of the town and had the strongest aura around, had to be the town and Appo's core. As she rose slowly, the high priest of Wind Wolf Town saw the figure leaping toward her like a shooting arrow in the distance. Despite her age, her eyesight was excellent, and she immediately recognized her opponent as a flash leopard. When she realized the identity of her opponent, her heart sank. Flash leopards and wind wolves had always been deathly enemies. But as per the rules of the demon clans, although they occasionally clashed, they would not easily invade each other and Appo's territories. The ancestral laws forbade this. Yet the opponent had come, and with such disregard at that. Moreover, his aura was incredibly potent, which surprised the high priest of Wind Wolf Town. "Why are you invading our town?" the high priest of Wind Wolf Town shouted. However, Xianling had no intention of conversing. He charged straight at the high priest of Wind Wolf Town with an angry roar. His figure almost disappeared the moment it pounced. At that moment, the high priest of Wind Wolf Town felt a chill run down her spine, a clear premonition of a life-or-death crisis. Without hesitation, she waved her staff, which emitted a deep green light as it created a massive aura around its body. The bright yellow figure appeared almost instantly before her, claws reaching for her. But the green light also burst outward, carrying a solid spinning force, forcibly pushing Xianling and Appo's body to the side. The high priest and Appo's somewhat withered body began to enlarge at this moment, and she cried out, "Ancestors, grant me your blessing." For a time, the green light surrounding her could not be any brighter, to the point that the emerald light began to turn an inky green. Even the sky itself was illuminated by the green light at this moment. Vaguely, a giant wolf head silhouette could be seen flickering in the air. Xianling missed his target, landing on the roof of a house. Watching the high priest and Appo's aura surge with its cry, a hint of surprise flickered in his eyes. Ancestral reversion? A priestess? There and Appo's actually a priestess in this small town. No wonder they dared to strike against us. Not only was he not frightened by the surge in the high priest and Appo's aura, but he grew even angrier. At that moment, a long wolf howl sounded. A formidable figure instantly rushed out and arrived beside the high priest. He was none other than the Lord of the Wind Wolves. Affected by the recent call of the high priest, his body had grown to nearly 4 meters tall. Every single one of his muscles bulged, emanating a fierce aura. He laid prostrate in front of the high priest. His body was reverting further to its ancestral form. The high priest floated up, landing on the back of the Wind Wolf Lord. It was as if the two merged into one, and their aura skyrocketed, quickly surpassing the Sixth Order. Meanwhile, the flash leopards had also invaded the town, doing more than just searching. Upon encountering the wind wolves, they immediately engaged in battle. In no time, both sides were locked in combat. There were many wind wolf clan members in the town, but not many powerful ones. Most were elderly, women, and children. In contrast, the 100 or so flash leopards who had come were all in their prime. In the ensuing battle, the wind wolves were caught off guard and were quickly overpowered, the fight leaving numerous bodies strewn on the ground. The eyes of the high priest of Wind Wolf Town, now purely dark green, flashed fiercely as she glared at Xianling. Why would you attack my clan? Do you not know that the ancestral court forbids invading another clan in Appo's territory? Invade? Your clan captured our younglings and you dare to question me? Xianling and Appo's eyes glowed fiercely and his aura kept rising continuously, a clear sign of his fully stimulated bloodline. Captured your younglings? The high priest of Wind Wolf Town was visibly stunned and looked down at the Wind Wolf Lord beneath her. Capturing the young of another clan was a grave taboo among demon clans. However, there had been such issues between the Wind Wolf and Flash Leopard clans in the past. In fact, their earliest dispute was because of this. Wolf meat didn't taste good and no one coveted it. The Leopard Flash clan was pretty much the same. However, for some reason, the demons of the leopard clans were born with a kind of unique spiritual essence. Consuming a young leopard demon from any of the lineages intensely nourished the bloodline of all demon races. It could even enhance one in Appo's bloodline spirit, promoting the evolution of the bloodline. Therefore, the poaching of younglings from the leopard demon lineage had long since been a practice. The poaching was something the leopard demons deeply despised, of course. While fully protecting their younglings, they retaliated comprehensively against any race daring to poach them. This had led to several great wars, causing the leopard demon lineages to become remarkably united. Eventually, the ancestral court of the demon races had officially declared a strict prohibition on poaching leopard demon younglings. Any violation permitted the leopard demon clan to hunt down the offenders, and the ancestral court always held the offending clan accountable. Therefore, kidnapping the leopard demon younglings was an absolute taboo. No wonder they dared to defy the ancestral court and Appo's rules and attack Wind Wolf Town. Could someone have actually hunted the younglings of the Flash Leopard clan? Regarding this, the high priest of Wind Wolf Town was indeed somewhat suspicious. The first suspect was right beneath her eyes. The high priest knew very well that the town lord was striving to break through from the 5th to the 6th order. However, due to insufficient bloodline strength, it repeatedly failed. This failure caused extreme anger. Only by reaching the 6th order could there be a chance to be conscripted into Kali City. The lord of Wind Wolf Town had long been disgusted with this remote town. And indeed, hunting and consuming the younglings of the leopard demon clans was a feasible shortcut. It was possible that someone like him would have taken such a risk. Even with the ancestral court and Appo's prohibition, the poaching of leopard demon younglings hadn't wholly ceased. The lord of Wind Wolf Town, somewhat agitated and uneasy, let out a low growl. "High priest, I did not do it." The high priest asked Shanling, "Do you have any evidence?" Shanling growled lowly, "I have already sensed the presence of my clan and Appo's bloodline. Do you need more evidence? My bloodline has reached ancestral strength, and its perception of our kin is something you should understand, right?" The heart of the high priest of Wind Wolf Town sank, knowing that the other party and Appo's words were likely valid. Had Shanling not sensed the presence of a flash leopard youngling in Wind Wolf Town, he would not have acted rashly. This was a matter that could affect both clans significantly. Just then, the lord of Wind Wolf Town suddenly roared again and a powerful burst of Wind Wolf bloodline aura erupted, visibly invigorating the Wind Wolves in the town, fighting Shanling's flash leopards and enhancing their bloodline aura. The lord of Wind Wolf Town opened its mouth and a wind blade shot toward Shanling. This wind blade swelled rapidly in the wind as the wind element in the air swiftly converged upon it. It expanded almost instantly to a width of about a meter, accompanied by a piercing howl. When the lord of Wind Wolf Town unleashed this wind blade, Shanling and the high priest of Wind Wolf Town understood the truth at the same time. Although the lord of Wind Wolf Town did not admit to capturing the flash leopard youngling, he was definitely the perpetrator. In fact, at this moment, the lord of Wind Wolf Town was filled with trepidation, fully aware of the trouble of capturing a youngling from the leopard demon clan. Yet, the desire for power and the improvement of his bloodline made it impossible to pass up the opportunity when it presented itself. Just 2 days ago, while out in the forest, he encountered a family of flash leopards playing. There were some young flash leopards, clearly newborns. The flash leopard couple was not strong, only at the 3rd order. Overcome by greed, after a moment of hesitation, he killed the flash leopard couple and kidnapped the cubs. He had thought that he had done this without anyone knowing, not even his closest kin, his wife. But unexpectedly, in just 2 days, the flash leopard clan and Appo's army had come bearing down, searching for their cubs. "Stop!" the high priest of Wind Wolf Town roared. As Shanling and Appo's eyes flashed yellow, and he was about to dodge, the wind blade in front of him burst forth with a mighty wind elemental fluctuation. Like a vortex, the wind element energy created a binding effect, making him feel as if the attack was inevitable. "FT, do you think a mere 5th order can do anything to me?" Shanling scoffed disdainfully, slightly shook its upper body, and split into 3. The 3 figures suddenly flickered, breaking the energy bonds. Simultaneously heading in 3 directions, the 3 Shanlings lunged toward the lord of Wind Wolf Town and the high priest. The high priest of Wind Wolf Town roared, "Are you insane?" She raised the staff in her hand. A bright green light emanated from her, and a fierce wind blew, forcefully repelling the three figures of Shan Ling. The Lord of Wind Wolf Town growled, "Kill him, high priest. I will leave the town if we kill him and the invading flash leopards. Without these methods, I can never advance to the Sixth Order with how few resources this land produces. I had no choice." "Fool!" Shan Ling roared angrily, "You have no way to advance, so you harm the younglings of my clan? Do you really think some mere ancestral reversion can stop me?" As it spoke, the yellow-brown leopard spots on his skin began to change, with a faint golden hue slowly emerging. Shan Ling and Appo's body became increasingly slender and powerful, and the light in his eyes turned a pale gold. Seventh Order. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town exclaimed almost instinctively. When Shan Ling had appeared, she had already sensed the strength of his aura. Now she was even more certain. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town was at the Sixth Order herself, but she was a priestess. Unlike ordinary wind wolves, she could enhance herself by drawing on the aura of ancestral god-level wind wolves. However, even so, she wasn't Appo's at the Seventh Order. She was only able to temporarily reach the strength of a wolf demon at the Seventh Order. The gap between the Sixth and Seventh Orders is like a chasm, a significant level difference. Even as a priest, defeating a true Seventh Order powerhouse was almost impossible. The only chance would have been if the Lord of Wind Wolf Town also reached the Sixth Order. In that case, she could have used a secret method to temporarily elevate him to the Seventh Order as well, so they could fight together and gain a slim chance. Without speaking further, driven by intense hatred, Shan Ling lunged at the High Priest and the Lord of Wind Wolf Town. The three powerhouses engaged in a fierce battle in the air. Strong green lights and calls to the ancestors continuously blessed the High Priest and the Lord of Wind Wolf Town. Near them, from the altar of Wind Wolf Town, faint green lights rose and twined, bestowing them with strands of power. After all, this was Wind Wolf Town, which could be considered their home ground. However, the power displayed by Shan Ling was truly formidable. Shan Ling knew the opponents would have an advantage fighting on their home ground, but being a true Seventh Order, he was confident in facing them and winning. For a time from a distance, one could only see Shan Ling transformed into a golden shadow continuously launching assaults on the central green light, repeatedly compressing it. However, breaking through the defense of the two from Wind Wolf Town in a short time was difficult. In the meantime, in a small two-story wooden house in the distance, the occupants had just noticed that a battle had begun. The three Wang brothers and Ling Mushua had already been gathered together by Qiu Jing, Hu Wuden and Appo's let them go outside. Wang Yanfeng and Tang San were on the second floor. Opening the window, they could see the battle in the distance. The direction of Shan Ling and Appo's charge and the place of the battle were exactly as the Tiger Mask Man had told them. According to the agreement, Tang San would leave after 300 breaths. Tang San. Wang Yanfeng looked at him. Tang San respectfully bowed to Wang Yanfeng, his heart filled with respect for the teacher who first gave him a sense of family warmth after he arrived in this world. "Teacher, I have to go now. Please take good care of yourself and your wife. When I can, I will come back to see you," Tang San said softly. "Are you leaving now? Wasn't the plan to wait for 300 breaths?" Wang Yanfeng said in surprise. Tang San said, "Don and Appo's worry, it should be fine. The flash leopards have come in large numbers. Haven and Appo's you noticed many wind wolves have already gone to the front lines? There aren't and Appo's many wind wolves in the rear now, and no one will notice me. Soon, as the person from Redemption Society said, the flash leopards should be able to break into the town. By that time it would be much more of a problem for me to leave. I and Appo's better go now and act according to the situation. Aren't and Appo's you confident in my abilities?" Wang Yanfeng hesitated for a moment but then nodded. "Be very careful. Once you and Appo's in Cali City, find Gue when you can. She will send news to me." "All right. Teacher, I and Appo's am leaving now." Tang San stepped forward, hugged Wang Yanfeng, then turned and went out the window. Skillfully he flipped in the air. Supported by the wind element, he smoothly floated down to the courtyard outside. He turned back to wave at Wang Yanfeng at the window, then quickly disappeared into the darkness without a trace. Watching Tang San and Appo's departing figure, Wang Yanfeng suddenly felt a sense of loss. Having spent a year together, he had truly taught Tang San a lot, but similarly, he also learned something from Tang San. After the initial period, he had stopped seeing Tang San as a child, and now he saw the child as an equal. More than that, he felt that Tang San had an extraordinary temperament. He was very assertive, yet calm at the same time. Perhaps as he grew, he could truly bring some hope to humanity. Subconsciously clenching his fist, Wang Yanfeng closed the window. He too had preparations to make. Later, when the flash leopards charged into the town, he needed to respond accordingly to clear any suspicion regarding Tang San and Appo's departure. Upon leaving the wooden house, Tang San kept counting silently in his mind. He didn't and Appo's leave Wind Wolf Town immediately. In fact, after learning about the Tiger Man and Appo's entire plan that day, he had made his own plans. Leaving directly was undoubtedly the safest choice, but this was also an excellent opportunity for him. Last time, because he had tried different methods of using and cultivating the bloodline imprints of various demon races, the Flash Leopard imprint had fallen from the 4th to the 3rd order. At the same time, his Wind Wolf imprint had not reached the peak of the 4th order yet. For him, this great battle between the Leopard Flash and the Wind Wolves was also an opportunity to strengthen his imprints. The stronger the imprint, the higher the level of abilities that he could use. Previously, the Rhino Demon, Etherhorn Deer Demon, and White-Crested Falcon Demon had been a lucky find. But now the Flash Leopards and Wind Wolves were right in front of him. And amid such a great battle, who would notice him? Tang San was already very familiar with the layout of Wind Wolf Town. He concealed himself in the shadows, rapidly approaching the area where the frontline battle occurred. Of course, he Wooden and Appo's approached the center, where a 7th order demon faced off against a 6th order and a 5th order one. Moreover, the Wind Wolf Town altar was present below. With his current strength, he could not make much difference in the battle there. Therefore, he approached the edge of the battlefield. As he got closer, he could feel the Wind Wolf and Flash Leopard imprints within him heating up continuously. This was a sign that the bloodlines were being stimulated. He could also sense that the battle between the two sides was intensifying. Climbing up a building, Tang San crawled on the roof, looking toward the distance. Not far from him, 7 or 8 Flash Leopards were attacking 4 Wind Wolves. Both sides were of the 3rd and 4th order in cultivation. Among the demon clans, the overall strength of the Wind Wolves and Flash Leopards was almost equal. Hence, they were sworn enemies, yet neither could gain an advantage. At this moment, however, it was clear that the Leopard Flashes were gaining the upper hand. Among them, 2 possessed the strength of the 4th order. Along with the others, their breakneck speed allowed them to assault the 4 Wind Wolves continuously. Among the 4 Wind Wolves, only 1 was at the 4th order, while the rest were at the 3rd. In terms of speed, although the Wind Wolves were not slow, they were at a marked disadvantage compared to the Flash Leopards. However, the Wind Wolves had more robust defense and power, and could unleash wind blades. Therefore, even though the Flash Leopards prevailed, they had to be cautious to avoid being hit by the wind blades. Their attacks were careful, and they constantly whittled down the Wind Wolves by injuring them more and more, but killing them would require time. Tang San observed their battle, then glanced at other skirmishes in the distance. This battle group was relatively isolated. The leading Wind Wolf kept shouting fierce howls, obviously calling for reinforcements. But at this time, the entire Wind Wolf Town was already embroiled in a significant battle, so how would there be any Wind Wolves available to support this front? This is a good place. Tang San's eyes narrowed, and in the next instant, he made his move. He crouched on the rooftop rather than descending directly. He swung his hands, and the Wind Wolf bloodline imprinted within him was activated. 2 wind blades shot out straight from the rooftop. Simultaneously, his discerning eye was also activated, capturing the movements of the Flash Leopards. 2 emerald-colored wind blades soared down into the fray. The Flash Leopards naturally sensed them, and they all dodged. But how could the Flash Leopards withstand the wind blades that Tang San shot? The 2 wind blades drew 2 beautiful arcs in the air, seemingly shooting into space, yet coincidentally 2 swift yellow figures collided with them. With 2 slicing sounds, the 2 third-order Flash Leopards were almost instantly sliced in half. This sudden change startled both parties engaged in the battle. The 4 wind wolves were naturally overjoyed, as they knew that not only had reinforcements arrived, but they were also strong. Typically, given their incredible speed, unless the wind wolves unleashed a large-scale, dense rain of wind blades, it was almost impossible to hit the flash leopards with wind blades. The fact that the 2 flash leopards were not only hit but instantly killed implied that whoever had launched the 2 wind blades was very strong. A 4th-order flash leopard roared and leaped up, pouncing toward the direction of the rooftop. Although it didn't and oppose to know how the opponent had done it, it had to deal with the wind wolf on the rooftop. When the 4th-order flash leopard rushed to the rooftop, it saw a yellow light that it immediately identified as the light that came with the leopard flash skill. The similarity in bloodline aura made it subconsciously assume, at first glance, that it was one of its own. Thus, its first thought was that a companion had arrived and had dealt with the wind wolf on the roof, and at that moment the other party had already reached in front of it. A palm, quick as lightning, reached out and struck directly at its throat. The pupils of the 4th-order flash leopard instantly contracted. The next moment, after being struck by the heavy blow, it saw a pair of eyes filled with purple hues and was immediately stupefied. The bloodline power within its body surged out wildly. Tang San pressed it down against the rooftop, activated the mysterious heaven technique's power, and unreservedly absorbed the energy from the flash leopard and Appo's body. This was a 4th-order flash leopard, but as it was tricked by Tang San's disguise as a flash leopard, it hadn't even been able to unleash its full combat strength. Furthermore, Tang San had grown significantly stronger after his journey to Kali City. In an ambush against an unsuspecting opponent, how could the flash leopard stand a chance against him? The energy of the mysterious heaven technique rapidly became more potent during the continuous devouring, and the flash leopard imprint within his body grew increasingly warm and luminous. Once the bloodline power of this 4th-order flash leopard was completely devoured, the flash leopard imprint also ascended back to the 4th order. This was the bloodline power of a 4th-order flash leopard in peak shape. It was absolutely a tremendous boost. The moment he fully devoured this flash leopard, the count in Tang San and Appo's mind had reached 50. In other words, it had been 50 breaths since the beginning of the battle ahead. He glanced distantly at the 3 great powers fighting fiercely in the center of Wind Wolf Town, aware that time was of the essence. At this moment below, due to the sharp decrease in the flash leopard's strength and the desperate efforts of several wind wolves, the situation had changed. It would have been a crushing victory for the former, but now the 2 parties had temporarily fallen into a stalemate. Tang San on the eaves took a deep breath, rapidly circulating his energy. The recently devoured 4th-order flash leopard had made his energy incredibly potent. Blades of wind flew out, heading straight downward. With the activation of Discerning Eye, he precisely controlled the wind blades, covering the entire area. The flash leopards fighting below immediately sensed danger. What did it mean that wind blades fell from the rooftop? It meant that the 4th-order flash leopard, which had gone up to kill the opponent, couldn't and Appo's handle the enemy. Even worse, it might have already fallen to a wind wolf. Those wind blades fell out of nowhere, illuminating the ground with an emerald hue. The flash leopards dodged frantically, trying to evade the wind blades. But this time Tang San showed no mercy. 18 wind blades flew out simultaneously, even more than he had used against the Tiger Man that day. Even the tiger-faced man, with his 5th-order cultivation, could only withstand 9 blades. The flash leopards, skilled in speed but not defense, found their speed useless under Tang San and Appo's Discerning Eye. Using leopard flash, normally their greatest asset, placed them at a deadly disadvantage. As if they had eyes, the 18 emerald-colored wind blades moved in such a way that they were exactly in the path of the leopard's charge. The wind blades contained so much energy that they were almost tangible, and they were far beyond the flash leopards and Appo's defense capabilities. Tang San and Appo's current cultivation had reached the peak of the 4th level of the mysterious heaven technique, and in addition to the 4 bloodline imprints he could make use of, it made him simply unparalleled by ordinary 4th-order demons. His all-out effort with the 18 wind blades made the area around the building he was on into a storm of blades. This was the first time he was exerting his full strength. The 18 wind blades were his current limit. He could use more if he didn't and Oppos. T care about controlling them properly, but in cases like these the precision of his control was far more important than the sheer number of attacks. The second fourth order Flash Leopard was almost instantly slain cleanly. They could barely dodge a few times using their sense of crisis, but the 18 wind blades were like the scythes of 18 grim reapers. They continuously circled around the targets, and sometimes they even collided to instantly change direction. This was one of the ingenious techniques among the Tang sect and Oppos' hidden weapon 100 separation, ranking even above the 100 birds homing strike. Mimicking the peculiar flight pattern of bats, it was called batwing rebound. It was not only precise, but also unpredictable. Under Tang San and Oppos' control with the discerning eye, the batwing rebound technique was elevated to a higher level. Each wind blade, composed of wind elemental energy, could absorb more of the wind element while flying under the guidance of the discerning eye, which amplified its power. As a result, the 18 wind blades grew larger and more powerful in the air. Even Tang San could not conceal their noise anymore. The piercing sound they made as they cut through the air was like a deathly incantation. The remaining leopard demons, having no place to hide under the convergence of the wind blades, were finally cut down where they stood. Witnessing this, the few remaining wind wolves were stunned. Were these wind blades their clan and Oppos' innate ability? Could wind blades be used in such a manner? Could they be this powerful? This was a scenario they had never even imagined. But the reality before their eyes left them no choice but to believe. The feeling of having narrowly escaped death made them wildly ecstatic. However, just as they began to feel excited, they noticed the wind blades circling in the air, first scattering, then aggressively converging from all directions, sweeping toward them. Oh! The terrified howls of the wolves were abruptly cut off. They were already heavily injured, so how could they possibly withstand such powerful wind blades? Tang San was counting silently in his mind. 60 breaths had passed. Having annihilated the wind wolves and flash leopards below, he swiftly descended. First, he found the fourth order beings among the wind wolves and flash leopards and quickly devoured their remaining bloodline power. The effect was somewhat less than he had anticipated. Perhaps because the bodies were not intact, a significant amount of the bloodline power had been lost. The third order flash leopards and wind wolves had little value left to devour. But in the pursuit of speed, he had no other choice. In addition, as far as the demon clans were concerned, ever since they killed his biological mother in this world, he had lost all mercy. In his eyes, demons deserved to be killed. Tang San quickly left after devouring the bloodline power of the demons there. The battlefield here was quite secluded and not easily discovered. The bloodline power of the 3 fourth order demons was still a substantial replenishment for him. The imprints of the wind blade and leopard flash had become much more solid than before, showing significant progress. The wind wolf imprint, in particular, had become extremely bright. It seemed to have reached a bottleneck after the last bout of energy devouring, and it was unable to progress further. Tang San was not surprised by this. The imprint was closely related to his own mysterious heaven technique cultivation level. It was normal that the bloodline imprint could not advance as long as the mysterious heaven technique was stuck at the fourth order. 80 breaths had passed. Tang San raised his head, his gaze again turning toward the ongoing battle in the center of Wind Wolf Town. At this moment, the powerful 7th order flash leopard Xianxia was fully exhibiting its advantage in speed. Despite the high priest of Wind Wolf Town releasing area of effect wind element attacks, she still couldn't and Oppos' touch the flash leopard, whose speed was simply incredible. It could even retreat 100 meters when the high priest released a barrage of wind blades, then swiftly counterattack using leopard flash when the wind blades dispersed. The Wind Wolf Lord with blood-red eyes was displaying far greater combat power than normal under the bloodline power amplification from the high priest. For the first time in his life, he was experiencing the power of the 6th order. His increasingly imposing figure withstood most of Xianxia and Oppos' attacks, but he was also heavily wounded. Even though the high priest forcibly enhanced their strength using the clan and Oppos' secret methods, the gap between a true 7th order demon and a 6th order one was in the end insurmountable. Xianxia completely dominated them in the fight. Moreover, the duration of the secret method was limited. It couldn't and Oppos' Tea be used endlessly, and once the effect of the secret method dissipated, not only would the high priest and the town lord and Apos' strength plummet, but they would also suffer backlash from the secret method. Nothing was obtained without a price, and that principle naturally held true for the clan and Apos' secret methods. Meanwhile, the Flash Leopard clan launched a full-scale attack on Wind Wolf Town. The young and strong of Wind Wolf Town could no longer hold their ground. Even women and children had joined the battle. This situation highlighted the strength of the demon clans. Even their young children possessed a certain degree of combat ability. Unfortunately, they were facing the elite of the Flash Leopard clan. Although none apart from Shanling were above the Fifth Order, sweeping through Wind Wolf Town was still easy for them. Tang San had killed a number of Flash Leopards, somewhat alleviating the assault from one direction, but more Flash Leopards had already invaded Wind Wolf Town. If this continued, the entire Wind Wolf Town might be annihilated. Stop! A sharp scream suddenly resounded. At the same time, the emerald green light around the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town suddenly intensified, turning into a massive tornado that swept Shanling away. The wind blades carried by the tornado also inflicted multiple cuts on Shanling, causing the Seventh Order powerhouse to falter. As she glared angrily at Shanling, the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town's staff exploded with a boom. Immediately, an extremely dense bloodline aura condensed into a dark green orb in her palm. Order your people to stop. Otherwise, we and Apos' will all die together. You should know what this is. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town lifted the dark green orb. Shanling and Apos' expression changed. He had intended to pounce on them again, but this time, he had no choice but to listen. Of course, he knew very well what that thing was. In any demon or nymph clan, the priests held a revered status because they could summon the power of the ancestors, continuously strengthening and stabilizing the bloodline of their people, preventing the bloodline power from weakening as it was passed down from generation to generation. As they oversaw this process, the priests often gathered some of this bloodline power from each of the descendants. In addition, they had the ability to communicate directly with the ancestral bloodlines. When these powers converged, they formed the core of a clan. The inky green orb held by the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town could be considered the heart of the Wind Wolf. It contained a strand of the bloodline aura of all the people of Wind Wolf Town, along with the blood and energy continuously offered in sacrifices. These powers, refined over many years by the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town and blended with the aura of the Wind Wolf ancestors, were the very core of the entire Wind Wolf Town and a part of the bloodline heritage of the Wind Wolf lineage. If you continue to force my hand, I will detonate the heart of the Wind Wolf. You'll probably survive, but everyone you brought here will die. It will be a never-ending war between the Flash Leopards and the Wind Wolf lineage, declared the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town sternly. A flicker of fear passed through Shanling's eyes. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town was right. If the heart of the Wind Wolf exploded, it would mean certain death for all Wind Wolves and Flash Leopards present, and even he would be gravely injured. The blast would be tremendously powerful. In addition, once the heart of the Wind Wolf exploded, it would undoubtedly alarm the higher-ups of the Wind Wolf lineage. Finally, the worst problem was that each clan and Apos' hearts of the bloodline were vital to their heritage. Once it and Apos' destroyed, it significantly weakened the bloodline heritage of that clan, a grievance second only to clan extermination. If that happened, regardless of the reason, the ancestral court could not prevent the ensuing revenge. It would lead to a grand battle between the Wind Wolves and Flash Leopards, a fight to the death. Shanling had not anticipated the presence of a heart of the Wind Wolf in this small Wind Wolf town. He was, of course, enraged, and how could he not be? The Wind Wolves had broken the rules of the ancestral court and hunted down Flash Leopard younglings, so he had both the reason and the moral high ground to simply erase the Wind Wolf town from the face of the continent. But he hadn't, and Apos' expected the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town to give him such a resolute ultimatum, having brought out the heart of the Wind Wolf. Once activated, even if it wasn't detonated, containing it again would come at a significant cost. For the High Priest herself, stabilizing the heart of the Wind Wolf would require sacrificing her bloodline power. A fierce light flickered in Shanling and Apos' eyes as it bellowed, "Hold off, everyone!" The attacking Flash Leopards halted their assault at his command. Meanwhile, Tang San, who was farther away, had just disengaged from a fourth-order flash leopard and vanished again into the shadows. What was that? Tang San was curious about the heart of the wind wolf in the high priest and Appo's hand. He felt a strong vibration when the heart of the wind wolf was revealed. It was most definitely a threat to his life. Then, he felt his wind wolf imprint become scorchingly hot almost instantly. Through his discerning eye, he could sense his bloodline imprint in Appo's yearning for the heart of the wind wolf, as if it wanted to merge with it. The heart of the wind wolf was not part of the knowledge Wang Yanfeng had imparted to him, so he didn't know exactly what it was. However, the fact that it could intimidate a seventh-order powerhouse showed its immense significance to the wind wolf lineage. As the battle in the town gradually ceased, Tang San found it challenging to continue taking advantage of the chaos. He only had the opportunity when both sides were engaged in battle. Even so, he had devoured the bloodline power of 7 or 8 wind wolves and flash leopards in this brief period. 160 breaths had passed. It was time for him to leave. At the same time, Tang San was secretly astonished at the Redemption Society. The Tiger Man had told him to leave after 300 breaths. Yet this time, the strength of the Flash Leopard clan and Appo's warriors was clearly more than enough to level Wind Wolf Town. The town would have likely been doomed if it hadn't been for the High Priest's desperate measures. With that in mind, it appeared that the Tiger Man had determined from the beginning that the Flash Leopard's attack would not be able to eradicate Wind Wolf Town. Because if Wind Wolf Town were destroyed, then Wang Yanfeng and his group, as vassals of the Wind Wolves, would also be killed without a doubt. The Redemption Society seemed to understand both parties and Appo's situations when making their plans. They probably expected that the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town could produce this glowing orb. At this moment, Shanling coldly said, "You bring out the heart of the Wind Wolf and think it will stop us from rescuing our clansmen? Do you think the grudge of hunting our younglings can be so easily settled? You should know the consequences of your actions. When this escalates to the ancestral court, the Wind Wolf lineage will be severely punished." The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town took a deep breath, knowing that this matter would not be quickly resolved. The fault completely lay with the greed of the Wind Wolf Town Lord. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town said solemnly, "For this matter, we are at fault. I admit that. But you have also killed many of our people. I can hand over the surviving younglings of your clan to you as long as you are willing to retreat." Shanling was furious. "And you think that will do? The chief culprit gets away? Do you know what you are doing? If you insist on this, even if it means all my people die in battle here today, I will destroy everything and seek justice at the ancestral court. Do you think we're afraid of you? We were enemies anyway, and now that you killed our children, you better be sure that we'll take this all the way to the end." A determined light flickered in the eyes of the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town. She ascended from where the Lord of Wind Wolf Town was and floated to the side, steadying herself by using wind elemental energy. "Fine, I will give you some justice. Feng Xiong, leave. As the High Priest, I declare that you are stripped of your position as the town lord from this moment. From now on, you are no longer the leader of Wind Wolf Town, and your actions henceforth have nothing to do with our Wind Wolf lineage." The Lord of Wind Wolf Town was taken aback. "High Priest, you..." His eyes surged with blood. The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town roared, "Do you want to see everything in Wind Wolf Town destroyed because of your stupidity? Piss off now." Realizing something, Feng Xiong clenched his teeth and swiftly darted away toward the distance. Shanling moved almost instantly, using the leopard flash, intending to intercept Feng Xiong. But at that moment, a wall of wind suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path. Shanling and Appo's gaze turned icy as he looked at the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town and coldly asked, "What is the meaning of this?" The High Priest of Wind Wolf Town spoke calmly, "I can sense that some of your young ones are still alive. Shouldn't you go rescue them first?" Shanling and Appo's eyes narrowed slightly. Meanwhile, thanks to the lingering effects of the High Priest and Appo's bloodline enhancement, Lord Feng Xiong of Wind Wolf Town had already run several hundred meters away. "You very well." A fierce light shone in Shanling and Appo's eyes, but he truly feared the heart of the Wind Wolf in the hands of the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town. Even he, as a seventh-order demon, would be severely injured if it exploded. More importantly, no matter what he said, he couldn't and Appo's T bear the responsibility of inciting a full-scale war between the two clans. Out of respect for the heart of the Wind Wolf, I and Appos, I'll give him 100 breaths. Within that time I and Appos, T pursue him. After 100 breaths, if you obstruct my path again, it will be a fight to the death. Everyone withdraw from Wind Wolf Town. As Xianling spoke, he swiftly waved his right forelimb, and the flash leopards in the town swiftly receded like water. The high priest of Wind Wolf Town and Appos' gaze remained unchanged, silently holding the heart of the Wind Wolf in her hand, quietly observing everything. Xianling looked at the high priest of Wind Wolf Town, his eyes still narrowed. Although your cultivation isn't powerful, to be able to summon the heart of the Wind Wolf, your bloodline must be pure. You and Appos, not a simple Wind Wolf. Why are you here? The high priest of Wind Wolf Town replied indifferently, if I still had my cultivation from the past, do you think you could be so arrogant in front of me? Xianling paused, looking at the aged face before him, seemingly realizing something. However, he didn't and Appos speak further. He just silently counted the 100 breaths in his mind as he darted out of Wind Wolf Town at full speed. Feng Xiong's heart was filled with rage and unwillingness. And Appos, how was I discovered? How could this have happened? And Appos, he understood that the high priest had exiled him in order to save his life. If he had continued to fight with that 7th Order flash leopard, he would have undoubtedly died. And worst of all was that the opponent had caught him red-handed. His only option now was to flee. No matter how fast the flash leopard was, he couldn't and Appos be more familiar with the area than Feng Xiong. Moreover, with the blessing of the wind element, he could sprint for a long distance, possibly even faster than the flash leopard. The wind element could also conceal his bloodline aura. However, he could feel the bloodline power, previously stimulated to the 6th Order, gradually waning. The pain from his wounds was persistent, and although he hadn't and Appos lost much blood, he was still affected. But he couldn't and Appos stop under any circumstances. He had to escape from here quickly. Only then could he stay alive. With all his might, he accelerated and dashed into the forest. Feng Xiong and Appos' plan was simple. Head to the Wind Spirit Stone Mine where there was a tunnel. It had been excavated precisely as a contingency plan, and the construction was overseen by the high priest herself. Within that tunnel there were many forks like a labyrinth. Feng Xiong would be safe if he could reach the Wind Spirit Stone Mine and enter the tunnel. The wind element of the Wind Spirit Stones could also better hide his presence. Just as Feng Xiong was confident of his direction and preparing to head to the Wind Spirit Stone Mine, a sudden indescribable feeling struck him. He instantly stopped. A streak of green light flashed in front of it like lightning. Had Feng Xiong not slowed down just then, the light would have sliced right across his throat. Who and Appos? There. Feng Xiong roared. Windblade, that was a windblade. Could it be that someone from the Wind Wolf clan is ambushing me? From behind a large tree, a figure slowly emerged. The small, slender figure surprised Feng Xiong. A human? And such a young one? Feng Xiong didn't and Appos even recognize the child, but he assumed that he was a vassal of the clan from somewhere. Yes, the one blocking its path was none other than Tang San. Tang San mumbled to himself, yep, 50 breaths should be enough. 20 breaths to kill him and a bit of time left for devouring. Time is tight, but it should be sufficient. While speaking, his hands were already in motion. Under Feng Xiong and Appos' shocked gaze, streaks of emerald green wind blades were rapidly unleashed, each over a foot wide. A total of 18 wind blades flew into the air unrestrained. Unlike the usually quiet blades that Tang San used, these ones produced a shrill whistling sound. The wind element in the air seemed to respond to the call of the wind blades, rapidly converging into them. In the eyes of the young man, Feng Xiong saw a glimmer of golden-purple light. He let out an angry wolf howl and suddenly accelerated. At this moment, his cultivation had not only fallen back from the 6th to the 5th order, but it even felt weaker than usual due to the bloodline stimulation he had gone through. Of course, Feng Xiong wasn't Appos afraid of the human boy before him, but even a small obstruction could prove to be fatal when his pursuer was a 7th order flash leopard. Thus, Feng Xiong's instinctive response was to seek a quick and decisive battle. A burst of green light shot out from behind Feng Xiong, and for a moment every strand of his fur seemed to turn emerald green. With a fierce gleam in its eyes, the former lord of Wind Wolf Town charged directly at Tang San, ignoring the 18 wind blades that seemed to scatter aimlessly in the air. As the lord of Wind Wolf Town, born with the innate talent of Wind Blade, he had a strong resistance to the wind element. Feng Xiong was an oppose, apprehensive about the attack of these wind blades. Even if they could harm him, the damage wouldn't be anything major. Its sole thought now was to quickly kill this human boy, and then escape as fast as possible. At this moment it didn't oppose to even have the time to ponder how a human boy could unleash so many wind blades without even undergoing the wind wolf transformation. Watching Feng Xiong charge directly at him, there was a hint of disdain on Tang San's face while his eyes filled with loathing. His mother in this world had died at the hands of this fucker and the high priest. Tang San admitted he couldn't oppose to handle the sixth order high priest. Still, he was confident dealing with a seriously injured fifth order wind wolf, whose bloodline power was rapidly weakening. He could clearly sense Feng Xiong's bloodline aura changes through his discerning eye. He had followed the wolf demon all this way and chosen to make his move here because he had the confidence to pull through. Facing Feng Xiong and Appo's direct charge, Tang San didn't oppose to evade. Instead, he met the attack head-on. His body flashed with a yellow light, and in an instant, he crossed a distance of 20 meters, appearing right in front of Feng Xiong before the latter had even moved 5 meters. This was the first time Tang San was using the leopard flash in actual combat after enhancing it to the fourth order. Feng Xiong and Appo's eyes were filled with disbelief. It couldn't oppose to understand how a human could use both the wind blade and the leopard flash. And then a fist enlarged in its vision. With a loud thud, Tang San's punch landed savagely on Feng Xiong's eye. The momentum of the lunge came to an abrupt halt, but a pair of wolf claws still reached out to Tang San. At the same time, wind energy burst forth from Feng Xiong and Appo's body, attempting to push Tang San away. The light in Tang San and Appo's eyes flared, and as Feng Xiong released wind energy, a flash of purple light sparkled in Tang San and Appo's eyes. Feng Xiong felt a sharp pain in his brain, and the wind energy he had just released instantly dispersed. Under normal circumstances, with its bloodline talent, even if Tang San used his abilities with the discerning eye, it would have been impossible for him to wrest control of the wind element from Feng Xiong. After all, the bloodline talents of the demon race granted significant control over the elements, not to mention the gap in cultivation levels. However, when Feng Xiong's brain was impacted, it could no longer control the wind. Under Tang San and Appo's influence, the energy swiftly dispersed. In that moment of daze, the 18 wind blades had already returned, whistling through the air. 100 birds homing strike. All these wind blades relentlessly struck Feng Xiong in the back of the neck, one less than a tenth of a second after the other. The surface of Feng Xiong and Appo's fur kept flickering with a green light as it tried to resist the invasion of the wind elemental energy, but the relentless attacks were too much to withstand. Meanwhile, Tang San and Appo's hands firmly grasped the wolf demon's front paws. Just as Feng Xiong regained consciousness, he felt a sharp pain in his neck. He struggled to protect himself but found his front paws immobilized, as if cast in bronze and iron, unable to break free. In terms of physical strength, even if Tang San reached the fifth order, without any unique enhancement, it would be difficult for him to compete with a demon of the same order. After all, the demons had formidable physical strength to begin with, and their bloodline abilities only improved that strength. However, he didn't oppose to need to control Feng Xiong for too long. With the mysterious jade hands combined with the ironhide shield of the Rhino clan, he had no problem holding onto the wolf demon's limbs for a short time. Moreover, the mysterious heaven technique was already activated from the first moment, and Tang San's energy forcefully devoured the bloodline energy of Feng Xiong. When the first surge of Feng Xiong and Appo's bloodline energy entered Tang San and Appo's body, he instantly felt a difference. The bloodline energy of Feng Xiong was much purer than any wind wolf bloodline he had devoured before, and the energy was incredibly refined. So refined, in fact, that just as he began to devour it, The Wind Wolf bloodline imprint inside him instantly burst out with a dazzling emerald green light, casting a faint green halo over Tang San. A series of dull cutting sounds echoed as wind blade after wind blade struck Feng Xiong. Feng Xiong's claws dug deeply into the ground as the successive wind blades struck him in the exact same spot. His coat of fur was finally cut open, and he was struggling desperately. On the second strike, he almost threw Tang San off. However, the powerful blows on the nape of his neck were too much to bear. When the 10th wind blade struck, the muscles at the back of his head were severed, causing his majestic stature to crumble. When the 15th wind blade fell, his spine was completely severed. Tang San and Appo's eyes shimmered as he dispelled the last 3 wind blades. At this moment, Feng Xiong was on the brink of death, hanging on to his last breath. He couldn't and Appo's let the wolf's head be severed, as that would affect the devouring of his bloodline. From start to finish, the battle had lasted only 10 breaths. It looked simple, but Tang San had exhausted all his strength. He had used all 4 of his bloodline imprint abilities, along with the unique techniques of the Tang sect. The fight was incredibly short, and this was due to Feng Xiong and Appo's response. Tang San could have stayed hidden in the shadows while releasing the wind blades, but he chose to appear in front of Feng Xiong purposely. Shock and surprise played a key role in this fight. He was just a 9-year-old human child, a seemingly insignificant creature. Humans were not usually regarded highly by any demon, and one so young would be all the more underestimated. His small stature was completely disproportionate compared to Feng Xiong's massive height, which naturally led Feng Xiong to underestimate him. When Feng Xiong had been expelled, Tang San had been nearby, observing the wolf demon's condition through the discerning eye. Naturally, he chose the most opportune moment to strike. Feng Xiong and Appo's first instinct had been to bolt away, but he had never imagined that such an insignificant-looking opponent would be so formidable. Tang San unleashed his full might without reservation, leveraging his peak 4th-order strength, the battle experience of a once-god king, psychological tactics, and the devouring ability of the mysterious heaven technique. The fact that he could swiftly subdue someone like Feng Xiong, injured and weakened though he was only due to these multiple factors. With the mysterious heaven technique's power fully activated, he devoured the bloodline power within Feng Xiong, and the last bit of the wolf demon's life force. The light in Feng Xiong and Appo's eyes gradually dimmed, and his body shriveled. In contrast, Tang San felt a flood-like surge of bloodline power rushing into his body. Suddenly, his aura surged dramatically, and a series of crackling sounds emanated from his bones. Indeed, by devouring Feng Xiong and Appo's bloodline power, he had broken through the peak of the 4th order and entered the 5th order. Not only had the mysterious heaven technique broken through to the next order, but the wind blade bloodline imprint within him was also transforming, changing from its original light green to a darker shade, and its glow was intensifying more and more. The bloodline of this Feng Xiong is not the same as that of ordinary wind wolves. Tang San made this judgment instantly. Could it be because it is a lord? Although it was his first time devouring the bloodline power of a 5th-order wind wolf, based on his experience of consuming 3rd and 4th-order wind wolves, the 5th order should be much stronger, but not to such a tremendous degree. Simply put, the bloodline power of ordinary wind wolves contained impurities, and the energy vortex of the mysterious heaven technique would transform and filter the bloodline during the devouring process. In contrast, Feng Xiong and Appo's bloodline power was almost directly devoured by the wind blade imprint without filtering. In other words, his bloodline power was extremely pure. Compared to a normal wind wolf, it was like the difference between pure water and sewage. And in addition to its purity, the bloodline power was also abundant. Feng Xiong's bloodline power exceeded even the total of all the wind wolf bloodline imprints Tang San had devoured before. Initially, he had thought that to break through the 5th order of the mysterious heaven technique, devouring a single 5th-order demon might not be enough, but this time, he had succeeded in one fell swoop. This showed that Feng Xiong and Appo's bloodline was extraordinary. Regardless of why this was the case, the important thing was that he had succeeded. That day, when he formulated a plan with the Tiger Man and secured 300 breaths of time, Tang San had his own scheme in mind. He came out early to fish in troubled waters, seizing this opportunity to enhance his own strength. He hadn't actually coveted the bloodline power of the Lord of Wind Wolf Town from the get-go. He wasn't Appos, completely sure he could take down a fifth-order Fengxiong. There was a difference of an entire order, and he didn't Appos, have the abilities from his previous life, making it very difficult to defeat the physically strong wolf demon. In addition, the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town was also there, so he couldn't approach Fengxiong even if he wanted to. Therefore, he just wanted to take advantage of the chaos to absorb some of the bloodline power of a bunch of wind wolves and flash leopards. And indeed, that was what he had been doing all along. When Fengxiong was exiled, however, and its aura fell drastically due to that forced bloodline activation, Tang San immediately sensed an opportunity. Such opportunities were extremely rare. Sooner or later, he would have to face the peril of challenging a fifth-order demon while being only at the peak of the fourth order. After all, only by devouring a fifth-order bloodline could he break through to the fifth layer of the mysterious heaven technique. So what better opportunity than this present moment? He had the time, so he went with the flow. And this flow carried him all the way to success. He couldn't Appos, afford to digest and absorb the energy he had devoured from Fengxiong right now. Fortunately, when the mysterious heaven technique broke through to the fifth order, it automatically absorbed a lot of energy. Even so, the excessive energy radiated from his body, enveloping him in green light, and the fifth-order wind blade imprint inside him clearly advanced a great deal within the fifth order. Once he extracted all the energy he could get from Fengxiong, Tang San felt inside Fengxiong and Appos' clothing and quickly found a small bag likely containing coins. He didn't Appos' have time to check, so he just swiftly put the bag into his own bosom. Using his energy vortex, he suppressed the wind blade imprint. At the same time, he activated the flash leopard imprint, turning into a rapidly flickering yellow light. The yellow light rapidly circled around Fengxiong and Appos' corpse for several rounds, consuming some of the power of the mysterious heaven technique. Then, Tang San determined a direction and activated leopard flash, darting away in the most energy-expensive manner he could imagine. Less than 10 breaths after he left, 2 figures descended from the sky. A yellow light flickered, much like Tang San's own, and a flash leopard landed beside Fengxiong and Appos' corpse. Seeing the body, the powerful 7th-order flash leopard's eyes widened in surprise. Following closely, the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town arrived at the scene, supported by a whirlwind. Upon seeing Fengxiong and Appos' corpse sprawled on the ground, the High Priest let out a piercing cry of grief and immediately rushed over, the wind wolf heart in her hand fluctuating wildly. Who killed him? Who? The howl from the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town was so piercing that it could be heard clearly even 10 miles away. Shanling said without hesitation it wasn't Appos' me. Upon seeing Fengxiong and Appos' death, its first reaction was relief, then confusion. Although this Wind Wolf Town Lord hadn't Appos' broken through the 6th order, he was still at the peak of the 5th order. How could he die here in such a short time? Earlier, he had been confronting the High Priest in Wind Wolf Town, but before the established 100 breaths had ended, the High Priest and Appos' expression changed dramatically, and she had quickly fled in this direction. Although Shangling didn't Appos' know what had happened, he had naturally followed suit. Relying on his perception of Fengxiong and Appos' aura, he had arrived ahead of the High Priest, only to find Fengxiong and Appos' corpse. When the High Priest of Wind Wolf Town looked up again, her eyes were filled with hatred. She roared almost crazily, "Flash Leopard, it was your clan and Appos' doing. Do you realize what you and Appos' have done? Do you know that Fengxiong carries the bloodline of the Wind Wolf King?" While also shocked, Shanling replied, "I already said I didn't Appos' do it. I don't Appos' know who freaking did it. The bloodline of the Wind Wolf King. Why the hell is the Wind Wolf King and Appos' descendant a minor lord here?